children and our grandchildren, and for 7 generations beyond them, have safe drinking water, clean air to breathe, and enough food to eat. A world where they have access to basic education, to develop their minds, and health care to nurture their growing bodies. A world where they have a warm, safe, and loving place to call home. A world where they don't live in fear of violence, in their home, in their neighborhood, in their school. This is the world which we seek. Let us commit ourselves this day and every day to doing our best as commissioners and as citizens, to work for the common good of our fellow citizens, our country, our state and nation, and our world. Amen.
Yeah.
Please join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the first meeting in November, regularly scheduled board meeting of the Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners, 5 p.m. on November 1st, 2010. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, amendments, or any other such changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we had 3 items that were on the latest agenda outline that I have. Just want to make sure for the record the board's aware that they've been pulled from the meeting. Those are items 6, 10, and 15. Please note that. And then under my time on the agenda, I'm going to have 2 issues to raise. One is request to move the solid waste workshop that was scheduled for Thursday. And the second is for me to read notice into the record and begin a board discussion on administrative transition plan.
Thank you. Those are items to be pulled with 6, 10, and 15. And 2 items on the county administrator. Yes.
I have 2 brief announcements, and Allison Dawson just texted me that she won't be here as I was turning off my phone, so I will also say a brief word about the United Way.
Okay. Would you like to keep that as first item?
That'll work, yeah.
Commissioner Watson?
Pull 2 items from the consent agenda, 5 and 7.
Commissioner Watson intends to pull 2 items from the consent agenda, those being number 5 and number 7. I intend to bring up under discussion items 3 things. One is the golf cart community in Panacea, and possibly getting a nod for a workshop. Second is Bryn Fountain Road paving, and the third is Wakulla Gardens infrastructure. Those are all under discussion items. Commissioner Green, do you have any changes?
No, I don't.
Well, with that, with those changes noted and additions, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart,
Second.
second by Commissioner Brock. All those in favor? I'm sorry? Sure, please.
To add one more announcement.
Yes. Motion by Commissioner Stewart, and Commissioner Brock can find that as a friendly amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Well, at this time, we'll go into the awards and presentation. Commissioner Brock.
Well, My first announcement tonight is every 2 years, and when we do these things, I'd like to announce that tomorrow is Election Day, and I want to encourage everyone to take that opportunity, if you haven't voted yet, to please go to your precinct and cast your vote tomorrow. Our county and our state are famous for very close elections, and we want to make sure that your candidate has the best chance of winning. So make sure you get the chance to go and cast your vote tomorrow. I also want to just present briefly, we got a plaque in the mail for participation with the North Florida Broadband Authority. Just signifying the first year of that project has been accomplished, and we are that much closer and are moving towards having a broadband infrastructure and providing more internet possibilities in the county of Wakulla in the near future. And then third, the first thing on the agenda tonight, I'll speak on behalf of Allison Dodson with the United Way of the Big Bend and Captain Chris Savick, who's also out of town. Many of you are already familiar with the United Way of the Big Bend and the projects that they do around our area and our community. This last year, I had the privilege of sitting on the allocations committee that helps decide how to distribute the funds in our community that are raised here in Wakulla. Wakulla County raised about $85,000, and we distributed about $110,000 through local charities in our community. Programs such as Big Bend Hospice, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Senior Citizen Center, and many other different organizations. What I want to do today, when I'm speaking beyond what I was hoping they might be able to, and they might come back and present this in the future, is the United Way campaign is happening right now. If you are interested in having your organization, the business that you work with, becoming a United Way partner and helping do United Way programs, please let me know, and I'll put you in contact with Allison Dodson. Or you can check out their website, uwbb.org. That's unitedwaybigbend.org. Or if you'd like to make a personal donation, they always accept those too. It's interesting when you go through things, you can see sometimes with business donated, and it'll say $5,000 this organization, or it'll say $25 this person. And we appreciate every dollar that we raise. The most important message that I want to get out, and I hope that you will encourage people, is a lot of people in Wakulla County, as you know, we're a bedroom community. Many of the people that sleep here at night work in Tallahassee. If you work in Tallahassee, you can direct your funds back to Wakulla County so that you can help your local community. So even if you, if there's an agency that you want to help, let's say for instance Big Bend Hospice, when they're serving Wakulla County, they come to us and ask for funds. And if you have directed your funds back to our community, we can help provide those services here in Wakulla. And if you work in Tallahassee and don't direct your funds back to Wakulla County, it will go towards Tallahassee, and we may not be able to help our own community here where we live. I want to make sure that you take the opportunity, if you have the chance. If you work for the state, there's a number you have to enter on the form. It's going on right now. Make sure you put the Wakulla County number down. You can look for it. And if you work for an agency or a different program in Tallahassee, make sure you direct your funds back towards Wakulla County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. The next award announcement is from the Big Bend Hospice, and before Pam says a few words, I'd just like to take this moment to note that on the consent agenda, an item that was not pulled, that means that it will be approved when we get to the consent agenda approval, unless it is pulled, I don't see why it would be, is a resolution for a National Hospice Month proclamation. And this states, whereas in the Big Bend Hospice Incorporated was first envisioned by local volunteers as a way to help those in Big Bend area of Leon, Jefferson, Madison, Taylor, Wakulla, Franklin, Liberty, and Gaston counties to provide compassionate care to individuals with a life-limiting illness and comfort to their families and emotional support to anyone who has lost a loved one. And whereas these volunteers developed an organization based on Dame Cicely Sanders' vision of palliative care that she founded at St. Christopher's in London in 1967 and focused on a hometown foundation for delivery of services. And whereas in 1981 those volunteers took steps that led to the formation and incorporation of Big Bend Hospice Incorporated in October of 1983. And whereas Big Bend Hospice, Inc. marks its 27th anniversary this month, celebrating the delivery of 131,000 patient care days and support bringing comfort and compassion to more than 1,700 patients during the past year. And whereas Big Bend Hospice Inc. founded as a community-based, not-for-profit organization, is honored to have more than 400 volunteers providing in excess of 25,000 hours of service to patients and families. And whereas Big Bend Hospice, Inc. provides its patients and families with a unique interdisciplinary team of experienced professionals, including nurses, family support counselors, certified music therapists, home health aides, bereavement counselors, trained volunteers, and spiritual support, working under the direction of our medical director and associate medical directors in each county to meet the needs of patients, families, and communities. And whereas Big Bend Hospice, Inc. joins all hospices in our nation to raise awareness of the availability of hospice care during November, which is National Hospice Month, and to enhance public understanding of hospice care. In the words of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, quote, "Life has a beginning, and a natural life should then have a proper end." You know, I think people make a mistake in thinking that hospice movement is about dying. It is about living. It is about ensuring that, one, the patient is as comfortable as possible, but it also is concerned about those who are left behind. And I'm very passionate in wanting to support this movement that says we want to see people live life with dignity, peacefully, and with as much comfort as can be provided. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the month of November 2010 be known as Big Bend Hospice Month in honor of the organization's 27th birthday, and all citizens are urged to support the provision of hospice care and services in our community to bring compassionate care to those facing life-limiting illness, comfort their families, and emotional support to anyone who has lost a loved one. Passed and adopted, hopefully, this day, first day of November 2010, Board of County Commissioners, Wakulla County, Florida. Pam?
Thank you, Dr. Kessler. I just wanted to make you guys aware that we are the local hospice in our community. All of our team members, and we do have an interdisciplinary team, we all live here. Our children go to school here. We have 24-hour on-call. We have our hospice house up in Tallahassee. I think our census is at 42 patients and families right now. We just finished our golf tournament on Friday. Haven't got the numbers quite together yet, but we had a really good turnout. All those funds are used to buy groceries, pay light bills, build decks, anything that they need outside their medical care is what we do. I would also like to let you know that we're going to have an open house on November the 10th. We renovated our office recently. It's November the 10th from 4 to 6, and we're located at 2889 Crawfordville Highway. Please come by and see us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Is David Telesco here? Not yet. Commissioner Arts, would you like to present yours?
Okay. I mentioned a meeting or so ago that we're going to be going out to bid for a tree planting grant that the county has obtained. There are going to be 10 sites in the county, parks, streetscapes, a few county buildings where we are going to contract with landscape contractors, nurseries, to provide and install trees at those 10 sites. So the bids are open now, and there's a mandatory pre-bid meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the administration building. So if it's something you or someone you know might have any interest in, please come to the meeting at 10 o'clock tomorrow. You can pick up the documents then. So we've designed it so that it won't just be one vendor who gets all 10 sites. The sites will be allotted to multiple vendors. So I just want to make sure everybody knows about that chance to employ some of our local folks. I also wanted to mention I've been serving on the canvassing board, and I've really enjoyed that experience, and I think our Supervisor of Elections, Buddy Wells, is doing a great job to try and be conscientious, make sure that things are done correctly, and restore or promote public confidence in our election system. And we had a discussion. We're going to make a change from the way results have been released in the past. We're going to hold early voting and absentee results until all of the individual polling places have reported in. So it may be a little slower it may seem a little slower till all the big numbers come in, but we think that's a way to do it that the public will have more confidence in.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
We don't have the speaker for the item on the concerns and solutions regarding BEAR, B-E-A-R, and so maybe that'll come at another meeting. I know I've been getting some phone calls and emails concerning BEAR in people's yards and trash cans, and I'm sure that information would be timely, but we'll have to wait on it. So we're past the awards and presentations, is that correct? And we'll move on to the consent agenda. I will mention that citizens to be heard will start somewhere after 6:30 as is scheduled, and we try to make a break to accommodate that time frame. And citizens are given 3 minutes to speak unless prior arrangements were made. On the consent agenda, we have 2 items that Commissioner Arts has requested to be pulled, items 5 and 7. We also have 2 items that were pulled, numbers 6 and 10. Are there any further items that would be requested to be pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus those 4 items.
So, second.
Commissioner Stewart makes the motion. Commissioner Brock seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Commissioner Arts, item 5, please.
Okay. I wanted to pull item 5 because this has been something we've been working on as a board to refine and improve. And compared to our efforts last year, I think we've made great strides forward with our action plans. But I pulled this because in reviewing it, I found a number of omissions and errors that concern me, because if our priorities are truly our priorities, our updates on the action plans should be one of the most important, accurate things we get. It's tracking our priorities. So I'll give you a few examples. I haven't even spent as much time with this that I'd like, but under improving transportation, for example, it said under task 3 to expand parking lot. One of the things we've done that wasn't noted is that we've kicked off the van pool program this summer. Under conserving energy, we established a thermostat policy. There's a grant we applied for, a Community Climate Showcase grant that TCC helped us with that we haven't acknowledged in here. We also, under task 4, where it says decrease energy use and increase efficiencies countywide, it's listing action 1 as done, and I would think there's still quite a few things we could do in that area. The enriching our youth, it says we're going to get an update today on on swapping with the Forest Service, and there was a little mention of it in the item, supposedly done in 2009, I guess. I don't know if that's still being worked on or not. Under improving public safety and expanding public services, we got the healthcare task force, and Congressman Beard's council ranked our Smith Creek Radio Communications Tower number 1. That wasn't even included in here. Under improving water quality, there were information about the sewer incentive program sort of stops at July 19th. So, and then in infrastructure improvement, the information about the FEMA grant and the road upgrade isn't real up to date. So one of the things that concerns me about those things is just that, are we really making our priorities? You know, we're really tracking our progress on those the way that I would hope we would want to for priorities. And also, one that was particularly going on to the staff tasking was one that was really disappointing to me that I hadn't seen up until then, and it may have been my oversight. I had brought to the board's attention that the enterprise zone was left out of the action plans, and it's slated here for spring of 2011, and that was brought to the board in July. So that's 3/4 of a year for something that we set as a priority 2 years ago. So I'm a little concerned about that one in particular. So I don't know what can be done kind of to make this what I would really hope it could and should be. And I think maybe we need to narrow our priorities a little bit. I'm not sure. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
We're going to have our new priority setting workshop first week in December, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think the insights you've given on this document really can be used to help prepare it to make it a bit stronger and more thorough for that December workshop as we look forward to the next year. I think it's December 6th or something, right? December 9th. And I think you're right. I think the points you're making are good points, and we can help make this document stronger for the December 9th workshop.
And hopefully we will think about, ways to improve this process. Okay. Sure. I was going to do a motion, but sure, go ahead.
Oh, well, I guess it goes to that point. I had some items that I also had questions about and input in, and maybe in regards to this, that we can continue this to the next meeting and have commissioners give their input and where they feel certain things could be added to, and have an improved document come back to us.
That's Alan's expressing something.
I was going to say we could do that, but we're going to have a workshop on this document shortly after our next meeting, about 2 weeks. So would you want us to give input then to make that a better document, even better document for our workshop, December 9th?
I guess what I'm questioning is, by the board's acceptance of this document, are we just ignoring the items that Commissioner Ross just pointed out, and any additional items? That's the only thing I'm saying. In other words, we're saying it's satisfactory, it's ready to be accepted, or do we want to make any comment to it?
Okay.
And do you have any suggestions?
It's quite a litany of concerns. I would have appreciated hearing about them before the meeting today, but
I did mention.
not in that specificity, Commissioner. With that being said, I think it's fine to continue them until the next meeting. I can tell you that staff who have been assigned each of these do monitor it closely. We did have almost a half-day meeting to try and update these documents in preparation for this. I am sorry that it's not to your liking. And if you would like, we will be happy to get whatever input commissioners want.
Well, I wouldn't phrase it not to my liking. I just think it's got some omissions and inaccuracies. So Howard is suggesting maybe tabling it to the next meeting. I'm wondering would it make more sense to bring those to the priority setting meeting?
We can make a motion to accept it in an interim fashion until the workshop, where we can have time to make any changes and work with staff. So that way we have time to discuss it longer and in more detail together, because that's a 4-hour, 5-hour workshop.
Okay, I kind of like that proposal. Okay, so I move to accept the 2010 Board Priorities Action Plan on an annual basis with further discussion at our retreat in December.
Second by Commissioner Green. And I would urge the commissioners to forward any of their comments on to administration to be included in the document that comes forward. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Commissioner Marks?
Okay, the other item I pulled was the grant application for the Big Bend Maritime Center. And one of the reasons I wanted to pull this is as an update. The last time we talked about this, we had also talked about a possible alternate concept plan, and I did want you to know that we have scheduled a meeting for Friday, December 3rd with staff, Florida Foresight, the landscape architect, a representative from Pueblo Rich, and on site to talk about the site and what's proposed for it. So that's an item of follow-up. The other thing I wanted to make sure the board knows, which I was not aware of on my first read-through, but this is not a grant to the county. And this, the last grant we approved, the FERDAP grant, was a grant that was going to be awarded to the county. This grant is actually awarded to Florida Foresight. And I've talked to a couple different staff. Some think that's a good approach. Some people think having it awarded to the county with Florida Foresight as the managing partner would make more sense, given that it's a county site. I don't feel real strongly. I did want the board to be aware, because I didn't realize that on my first read through. And then the other thing is there were a number of things that were proposed that it seemed to me maybe some kind of a competitive bid process would be helpful, because I didn't see that outlined in the grant. So before I make a motion, are there any comments or questions?
I have some questions. And maybe it's better directed to Pam. What is the timeline that we have to get this application in?
It's due November 10th.
Is there any way to, we discussed these things before, is there any way to try to avoid like the last minute application process? Coming before the board, or is there the system just doesn't permit it? Is that what's happening?
It really doesn't. The grant application cycle, I don't know exactly the date that it opened, but because you guys are 2 or 3 weeks ahead on your deadlines for your agenda items, this would have been the soonest that we could provide you a draft application. I mean, we could come to you and say, hey, we want to apply for this grant, but we don't really know all the details, and then that usually brings up too many questions and you want more details. So this time, but by the deadline, right. It wasn't like this was an add-on or anything, but by the deadline we have you a nearly complete draft. I mean, it needs a project map and a couple of things, but this is what we will be applying for very specifically. Nothing, in that would change. I was actually feeling pretty good that we got you a very good draft in time for your meeting and before the application is due. But it's just it is the nature of grants and the fact that Florida Foresight is an all-volunteer organization right now. So
I
people that wrote this,
actually thought the description was pretty detailed and clear.
Yeah.
I can understand what it is you're proposing to do in this, so, better than the last one, for example.
Right. So we're trying to improve as best that we can, but we did the best that we could do to get it here when it got here.
Now, I was a little confused on the in-kind and cash. Is there a cash component from the county?
There is a cash component. What we're hoping for is that that our FERDAP grant would get awarded, and that cash can match it. If not, we have Florida Foresight has other grants that we're looking at, over these next few months that we can apply for and hopefully may get funded to provide the cash portion of the match. If at the time that this grant is ready to be awarded, and if we are selected, for funding, and we don't, for some reason, have those other things in hand to provide the cash match, then we simply won't be able to accept the grant.
And that's what I'm asking, is there a commitment from the board, if we approve to go ahead with this application tonight, to actually have a commitment of cash from the board?
No, we are not asking you to commit.
Okay,
No.
that's what I wasn't clear of.
No.
Okay.
No, we clearly outline in the application too where the expected match will come from.
Okay.
And it's not county funds.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
With some reservations, I move not about the partnership, but about the proper applicant. But I move to approve to partner with Florida Foresight in applying for a Florida Coastal Management Program grant for the Big Bend Maritime Center, and authorize the chairman to execute the grant application and a letter of support.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Arts and the second by Commissioner Brock on item 7, and that we can look into that dialogue in the future as far as who is actually going to be the recipient. Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. We'll go back for one moment, and I'm told that Mr. Alescu is here. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're going to give us some presentation concerning bear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I apologize. My lack of directions are notorious. Okay, so I'm going to talk about bear and bear activity in Wakulla County. When we talk about bears in Florida, they're pretty spotty, but we are in the Apalachicola population, which was estimated in 2002 at 700 animals. But you can see there's different populations across the state. Some are doing very poorly, and some are doing very well. Apalachicola is obviously doing very well. And while most people don't purposefully feed bears, a lot of people feed bears without knowing it. If we have our pet food out overnight, if we have birdseed out overnight, or put the garbage out the night before pickup instead of the morning of because the guys come so early, well, that's essentially inviting bears, because they're typically timid from people, and when it's nighttime, a lot less people activity, a lot less lights and everything else, and if they're willing to take that jump to the garbage can, they're probably going to do it at night. And so what we've seen for Wakulla is the calls we've gotten have pretty much went up dramatically since 2005, and I have 2010 on here just to show you we've already lapped last year, and that's November 1st. That's because we've had a really dry summer, and so a lot of the foods they count on in the forest is not there for them, and so they're taking a lot more advantage of people's garbage. And I keep saying garbage because if you look, over half of these calls are related to bears and garbage. In 2009, it was 66%. And so what that means is they're not just here, they're here and they're getting a meal, and so they're getting rewarded and they're coming back, and then they're coming back again. And so that kind of trend is something that we don't want to see. Sightings of bears, we're in Wakulla County, you're going to see bears. But what we don't want to see is bears lingering in neighborhoods. And so, if you look at a map on where these calls are, in the red are the roadkill, bears have been hit by vehicles, and in the green are the sightings. You can see pretty much there's very few communities that have not had bear activity. Now, not all these are, bears in my garbage, but over half of them are. And so the good news is dumpsters are very easy to make bear-proof. We just go back to the old school way of making them metal instead of plastic. You put a slider on the side and a clip, and the bear can't get into it. The big problem we have is how do we secure residential garbage? It's very difficult. Bears are very intuitive in how to open these things. I can design one that's bear-proof, but then it's also garbage man-proof. So the trick is filling that void, and again, if you have a garage or somewhere you can secure it, you try to secure it before they pick up. And I've had many residents tell me they come at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some waste providers are willing to adjust their schedules, some are not. And so we put the call in as FWC to try to get them to do that. The other option is if you don't have a shed, you can build one, but I caution you to go to our website and look at how to build one, because let me tell you, not every shed built is equal. You have to use screws, you have to make sure there's no seams to make sure that the bear can't get to it. But by far the best thing we can do is have a bear-proof can. And unfortunately, right now, the only provider of bear-proof cans is Waste Pro, and for both Franklin and Wakulla, there's only 200 cans in stock. So those are all gone, and now we have a waiting list. However, these are bear-proof and guaranteed, so if a bear gets into it, they'll provide another can. And this means that whatever we're doing with our cans, we can keep doing. It looks exactly the same as any other can, except you actually have to put your finger inside to open the lid. And it's, of course, metal reinforced. Electric fencing, while many people are afraid of it, it works like 99.9% of the time. And so that's, a lot of people have actually chosen that route with the lack of bear-proof cans that are available. And what does FWC do? A lot of people are frustrated because we don't come out and move bears when people call us about them, and that's kind of the expectation that we've built for ourselves. In the last decades, pretty much that's what we did. If someone called, we went and moved the bear. We realized that the bear is a symptom of the problem, because if we move that one bear, then another bear is going to come and find that garbage that's available, or a raccoon, or a rat, or a dog, everybody else who's going to be invited into this area because garbage is available. And so we realized that if we secure the garbage, the bears actually just move on through and they don't stick around. And so if we have people who can secure or try to secure their stuff, then we come out and we assist. But in the lack of that, it's just a losing proposition. We move them back into the forest, they come right back, or we end up having issues with other elements. And so, like I said, we did a study, and half of the animals that we moved got into trouble wherever we moved them. So now we just gave somebody else a problem that didn't have one. 70% of the animals we moved didn't stay where we put them. So this is not a very effective way. We did it for decades. So like I said, I'm not surprised people think that's what we should do, but that's just not something that we're going to be doing more often. We do and are starting something new, which is called hazing, where we are training sheriff's officers, local PD, in using rubber bullets to scare bears off a property. That's something where officers are usually the first on the scene well before a biologist, and so if they're able to arrive where there's a bear there, we can remind the bear to be afraid of people. This hurts the bear but doesn't cause any serious long-term injury. And the idea is he's got to remember to be afraid of people. If bears keep coming to garbage and there's no negative repercussions, he's just going to keep coming. And so this is going to help that. It doesn't solve it. We still have to secure that garbage because he'll come back, but at least he'll be wary of people. Now, I'm here because there's a partnership that we can do. We can respond to situations, but we can also ask for assistance. And what we can't do is deal with, so far it's been all voluntary assistance. You know, somebody in the neighborhood decides they want to secure their stuff. Maybe even 30 out of 40 secure their stuff. Well, if you have 10 people in a 40-person neighborhood, everyone's got bears, because the bears walk through everyone else's yard to get to that person that didn't secure it. So what we're asking for is some sort of language or ordinance that would say you have to secure it. This is a public safety issue, this is a public health issue, and this is something where if we all do it, there's actually a state law that our officers could enforce. If our officers went around ticketing people who had garbage unsecure, we'd probably make a whole lot of money, but we have a whole lot of enemies too. The idea is make it clear that this is a really important thing that everyone should do, and the folks that are purposely not going to comply, those are going to stick out like sore thumbs, and we can take them to appropriate action. And again, it doesn't have to be something severe. You would have to say, you know, either you have a wildlife resistant can, and that can be made by the person or purchased, or you have to put it out the morning of. Again, right now it's voluntary, but we're saying, given where you guys are at, you're always going to have bears. And so this is something that we see continuing that trend. The other thing that can be done is, right now we have one waste provider in the whole state that has these bear-proof cans, and that's Waste Pro. That means that the choices for citizens are pretty much zip. They have Waste Pro, and now they're on a wait list for Waste Pro. But if you say, you know, we live in bear country, and so we know that our residents want bear-proof cans. If you're going to service us, you have to have that option. Not everybody has to have one, but if a resident calls, you shouldn't just say, sorry, we don't have it. You should say, yeah, we have some, so that if a person has a problem, they can actually respond to it. And again, everyone has bear-proof dumpsters. There's not a company out there that can't get a bear-proof dumpster, because it's very simple. But it's the bear-proof cans that, like I said, we have a wait list, and people who have them have pretty much said that that's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, we've had, when we surveyed these people, 60% had problems with bears 1 to 7 times per week. After they got their bear-proof item or can, it went to every 6 months to maybe once a year. Most people, 41%, said their problem went away immediately. So this is something that we know works, and it's something that's very, very few have access to it. But we know that it works, and we know that this solves the issue. And what that means is the more difficult things, the more egregious things, we handle. But as far as a bear knocking over a garbage can, if it's available and it's not secure, they will do it. No matter how many bears we pick up, unless we make them extinct, this will happen in Wakulla County. And so this is something that we feel very strongly, that waste management and controlling that access to wildlife, again, not just bears, but raccoons, which, believe it or not, have a lot more issues with them in public health than bears do. And so this is something that we feel very strongly about. The other thing, again, I said we train law enforcement. I'm contacted with Major Langston in Wakulla Sheriff's Office. We're hopefully going to set up a training where we put everybody through the non-lethal measures you can do. They know what to expect when they arrive on scene. They know bear behavior a little bit. And so the idea is that we spread out this knowledge base to a lot more than just the biologists. We also have a statewide bear plan right now in the commenting stage, and that's the website you can go to get it. It's also where you can make comments on it. And the idea with this is that we're going to be coming to you guys regularly if this plan goes through, because we want to manage bears at the local level. We want bears to be managed in the Apalachicola bear population different than Eglin. We got totally different issues. The bear population have totally different issues, and the people are different. And so the idea is bring it down to the local level. Have a member of the commission on our advisory group. They can talk about what the local issues are and how they feel we should resolve them. And so that's what this plan asks for. Again, it's got issues with population and goals and things like that, but most of that is left to the local level. So that if this plan goes through, we'll have an advisory group, and that advisory group tells us, hey, I think we need to do this and this to manage bears. And so we'll kind of go through that process. So again, I apologize for being late, but this is something that I feel like FWC and the local governments can work together on. Yes, ma'am.
I know one resident who was having problems searched online for some bear-proof cans, and she said she found one for $40. Do you think that's very likely? What do they usually cost if you're buying one?
Yeah, the challenge is you have to find one that works for you, and the waste service providers will not use anything that takes them more than 5 seconds to open. So the ones that are cheaper are screw top cans, which kind of look like a giant peanut butter jar. They won't use those. And so that's something that's just their bottom line. If it takes more than 5 seconds, they can't do their route, and then it gets to be a problem. There are some that are about 40, maybe 60, but they're also about 30 gallon. They're not your 95 gallon that everybody likes to use. We're seeing prices for those, the standard one that I just showed you, that depends on where you go, $150 to $180 a can. And some of these require 200 lots shipment. So this is why it's definitely in the waste service provider's realm rather than the individual citizen. Now, that being said, if you don't have waste service pickup, you get anything you want. And if you have livestock feed or something that doesn't require someone to open it for you and things, then these things are great and they're very affordable. But the actual bear-proof cans that are self-locking, that you open, you drop it, and it closes, those are, around $180, and again, you got to get 200 at a time. So this is something that you'd have to say, can you do it? Now, that does not exclude your more local, smaller businesses, because in Franklin County, they have an individual who's pretty much just himself runs it. He makes bear-proof cans himself. So they already have 2 of their waste service providers of the 3 main ones that would comply with what I'm asking, is that go to them and say, we're in bear country, our residents want this, you need to give them what they're asking for and have that on your lot in case they ask. And like I said, right now we've got a pretty long waiting list for it.
Thank you.
The calls that I've had, I guess the frustration for me is, and the citizens is, they refer to FWC in Panama City, which I guess is where the headquarters
That's the regional headquarters.
and no FWC officer, and there's dozens in this county, would come and help. I mean, nobody was dispatched. Even come talking like, I don't understand why they can't do that. I see them everywhere. Why can't they do that?
The law enforcement officers, the law enforcement officers have the equation of enforcing law. And in these cases, it's the same exact thing if I tell you from Panama City on the phone or if I arrive at your door. I'm telling you the same thing, that if you have garbage out for bears, they're going to come get it. I wish our budget was huge and we can go and visit everyone, but we had 3,000 calls last year. That'd be a lot of site visits. So we can't always go out and do a site visit. I personally delivered a bear-proof screw-top can last week. That's out of the ordinary. I happen to be coming through town. We happen to have one. But this is something where the scale is large enough. This is not something we can do piecemeal. And right now, that's what's getting done. And I feel like there's a role for local government to acknowledge the fact that you guys are in primary bear country, you're going to be in primary bear country, and this is something that's going to happen. And I could tell you that, it'll get better. I really don't think so. I think that if you control the waste problem, you'll see bears, but you won't have bear problems. And we've had communities that have this, and it works for them. But it's got to be the whole community. It can't just be a few people, because then what they're doing is creating problems for their neighbor.
If I understood correctly, you were recommending either a requirement that everyone secure their garbage or not put it out until after 6:30, or require the trash haulers to have cans for people who want them. Is that those are your recommendations? Would you one of those?
Recommendations, but I don't know that they're mutually exclusive. I mean, if the guy offers cans and you have somebody who decides they don't feel like doing that, then you still have a problem in that neighborhood. So I don't know that they're mutually exclusive. I think you would probably want to do both, because if you say you have to secure your garbage and they don't have adequate means to secure their garbage and they can't get one from their hauler, and their hauler's putting all these requirements that you can't do this to it, you can't do that, then you have an issue. And so, like I said, it's something that would probably go hand in glove trying to get the situation under control. It's a waste management situation. For some reason out west, this is standard. A lot of the waste providers already do it, but in the east, this is really unheard of, and we're trying to be proactive here and say, look, we've been fortunate that we haven't had any major issues with bears. But the more they're in contact with garbage and the more they have no negative repercussions, the more chances that they're having more interaction with people, and we just don't want that.
One of the complaints that we had recently about our citizen who had a bear in her yard, it was, she described the bear as not being scared of loud noises, banging with trash can lids, and hanging out during the daytime, just laying around in her yard.
Yes.
Are there signs when we should be more aware of bears when they become, like, is that a bad situation? Like,
No, I mean, if it's the same individual that I'm thinking of, we've talked to two different people, and when the bears are exceptionally large, they don't run from anything, much less, us hairless bears yelling at them. So the difference is that if you have most wild bears that aren't used to people will run, even the, kind of the larger ones. But these big dominant animals, they haven't ran from anything in years. So for us to yell at them and think that they're going to take off is kind of like, how much ego do you have? So the question, however, is if they actively approach you, if they actively are seeking out food, we need to know that. That's an animal that's been fed either on purpose or by hand. That's an animal that we would actually come out and destroy. And that's something that we don't like doing. And I'll tell you, 99.9% of the animals that we've destroyed in the last couple of years, they're not aggressive. They're just standing on somebody's porch looking in their sliding glass window, wanting food. And they've been fed. They've lost their fear of people. And my fear is not that they want to hurt somebody, but my fear is somebody's going to walk up and touch them, and they're going to swat them. And we had a fellow in Longwood was feeding them rotisserie chickens and happened to have his hand out, and something spooked the female, and she swatted him in the face. And fortunately for him, it was a superficial thing, and by his court date, because we did take him to court, it's illegal to feed him, by his court date you couldn't see it. But that's my concern. It's not a bear stalking people, because they're not active predators here. 80% of their diet's fruits, nuts, or vegetables, 15% are bugs. That leaves 5% for things that play dead and are dead. So armadillos, possums, roadkill. So these are non-active predators. They're not out to hurt people, but it's too large of an animal to feel comfortable around people, and that's our concern, and that's what we do. And so if it's a big animal that when you say, go away, and it kind of looks at you like, yeah, right, that's what they're going to do because they're a big dominant bear. But it's the ones who approach, the ones who are, like I said, literally sitting on your deck, looking in your sliding glass window for a handout. We need to know.
And during the daytime, it's not like we see some animals around in the daytime.
No, in the fall, they actually go to 18 hours a day feeding because they go from 5,000 calories a day to 20,000 calories a day. So they literally just feed all the time. So if you see a bear in the daytime, it's not like some of these other animals that are nocturnal. Normally they're like deer, so they're active at dawn and dusk. But in the fall, they're active almost all the time.
So they don't hibernate here, do they?
They actually do. The females have to lay down and give birth. That's what they do. If they're a pregnant female, you will not see them. But the males and the others can walk around, but they actually slow down their metabolism. And like last winter when we had those 2 weeks of really harsh weather, they'll just lay down for 2 weeks because they have that ability to not eat or drink for 2 weeks or 3 months if they had to. But they don't have to den. The pregnant females do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, and again, I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think last item we did was item 7. Is that correct? Item 7, we're on to...
We're on to planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning. Yes, okay. So entering a portion of the agenda dealing with planning and zoning items. This is these items are all quasi-judicial. The first of the items is a request for change of zoning R10-04 from semi-rural residential RR1 to rural residential RR2 for the Emerald Acres subdivision, which contains 93.94 acres. The staff, I'm just verifying whether the staff has all required notices have been provided.
That's correct.
Thank you. County Attorney.
Thank you. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commission member needs to disclose all contact received from interested parties, their representatives, any lobbyists, or other third parties concerning this application, and any personal investigation or knowledge that you may be relying upon. In accordance with the code, I've already provided a large package of written correspondence I received from Commissioner Arts into the record. Ms. Welch has that, but now it would be an appropriate time if we could go down the line. You could disclose any ex parte communications you may have. Commissioner Arts?
Okay, I visited the site. I have spoken with a number of residents within Emerald Acres and around Emerald Acres. I've also received a number of emails and letters, and I've spoken with staff.
I've had correspondence, emails, letters regarding some of the projects.
I visited the site as well. I've spoke with residents in the neighborhood and surrounding neighborhood. I've received emails in the past, had additional contacts with the persons from and around the neighborhood since.
Likewise, I've spoke with residents in the neighborhood and received emails and spoke with you as late as today.
I've spoke with residents in the neighborhood and outside the neighborhood, including the Mathers family. I think that we've turned in everything to you when we first started this. Nothing really has come up since then.
Okay. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Anyone who intends to speak on this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now, the staff can present the staff report.
Okay, as stated before, this request is to change the zoning district from the existing RR1 to the RR2 district for the Emerald Acres subdivision, which is located to the northeast of the intersection of East Ivan Road and Emerald Acres Drive. And Wakulla County is processing this request as an administrative rezoning per previous board direction. Back in April of this year, the Building Division did receive a petition to rezone the Emerald Acres subdivision to a district which would allow for livestock. And this was signed by 31 citizens from the Emerald Acres subdivision and some of the area around that throughout the county. And through direct comment forms that were handed out at community meetings and available to the subdivision property owners, we received back that 9 out of the 19 property owners who actually own property there within the subdivision are in favor of the rezoning being considered this evening. Additionally, 16 property owners from the surrounding area also responded through those comment forms. 13 of those properties were in favor of tonight's rezoning and 3 were against. After the agenda request that you have before you were prepared, staff received an additional petition which is not in favor of the rezoning, and that was included as a late attachment to your books. So there has been a more recent movement in that regard. And that petition, when staff last saw it, was signed by 18 citizens. On September 13th, 2010, the application was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and the Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning request. The Board considered this application at their October 4th public hearing, and no vote was taken at that time as that was for consideration only. The Emerald Acres subdivision is subject to the Rural 2 future land use designation, which allows for 2-acre tracts with central water connections. The proposed zoning district tonight is RR2, which allows for mobile homes, single-family dwellings, and livestock, and also allows for a density of 1 unit per 2 acres. The The FEMA designated flood zones for the subdivision are zones A and C. And currently, the area has multiple residential dwellings. Some of these lots do contain livestock, and no environmentally sensitive features such as karst are known to be present within the subdivision, as well as no wetlands are believed to be present in the site. And the proposed RR2 zoning district is compatible with the Rural 2 land use designation. And it is important to note that the existing RR1 zoning district is actually not compatible with the Rural 2 land use designation. And so thus a change to the RR2 district would bring the zoning of the subdivision into conformance with the comprehensive plan's guiding principles. And in addition, the RR2 district would be compatible with some of the surrounding properties that have zoning districts which also allow for livestock, including Ag, RR5, and RR2. And the existence of livestock is not permissible in the existing RR1 zoning district. The advertisement for this public hearing appeared in the Wakulla News August 26, 2010 edition, and the recommendation is for option 1, which is approval per the Planning Commission recommendation as they act as the local planning agency.
Are there any, thank you, are there any questions for staff from the board? Okay, at this time we'll take public comment. All those that are about to speak have taken the oath. If you have not, please identify yourself as such. Ms. Brenda Mathers.
Hi, my name is Brenda Mathers, and I live at 43 Christian Lane. I do have a petition to present as part of the record. It is in addition to the petition that was presented prior. It is a petition of the owners, excuse me, that either reside in Emerald Acres or their properties adjoin Emerald Acres. I'd also, do I give this to the clerk? I also have copies for the commissioners and the explanation of the charts. Yes, I'm sorry, that is with that petition. The original petition that was signed by the petitioners on the original petition that wanted the rezoning, some of those, and I would like to bring to your attention, do not live in the contiguous area. By contiguous area, that means being in actual contact, touching along a border, or at a point. There are 21 homesteads in Emerald Acres. Of those 21 homesteads, only 10 signed the petition to rezone. There are 17 surrounding homesteads that adjoin, touch, or come in actual contact of the proposed rezoning area. On the original petition, only 2 of those 17 signed that petition. On the petition that I just turned in, there are 17 adjoining properties. Of those 17 adjoining properties, by virtue of being contiguous properties, 12 homeowners signed not to have it rezoned. That means we have 51%. If there's only the 17, we have 12 homesteads that signed against it. There seems to be more homeowners that I spoke with that didn't want it. In the 25 years that the property's been an RR1, and for this commission, it seems to undo what another body of competent commissioners and boards decided 25 years ago, seems to me a step in the wrong direction. When this process was begun, there was a request made just to move a nuisance, to deal with a nuisance. That person decided to tell the county employee that they would get rezoned. Well, per Wakulla's Article 3, Administrative Procedures, Section 3-20, this homeowner should have been made to follow the process. That process was not done. Also, state statutes 125.69 are explicit in the requirements of penalties and enforcement of codes for violations of county ordinances. None of this was done. Mr. Creel also stated that enforcement officers that several people in the area also had livestock. At that time, if there was a check done, there are 5 owners of the 21 who live in there who have livestock. Mr. Creel and 4 others. The 4 others, by virtue of statute, are legal. They purchased their property for that use prior to '85. Under statute, they are grandfathered in and they are legal to have livestock. A non-conforming use is a legal violation after a zoning has been changed, and it's usually referred to as grandfathered in. So the law gives them the right to keep livestock. We must also determine a discontinuing use of the non-conforming use. At least one lower court in Florida has held that a code enforcement officer's testimony that a non-conforming use had ceased during site visits did not constitute substantial competent evidence. And I have cited that law in the paperwork that I've given you, so I won't read it's Butler versus Orange County. There was another lower court in Florida that held that the burden of proof to establish a non-conforming use falls on the property owner. Once the non-conforming use has been established, the burden shifts to the local government to prove that a non-conforming use has been discontinued or abandoned. And the 4 homeowners who have livestock that are legal, none have discontinued or abandoned that right. As for Wakulla County Ordinance 8-10 and regulating animals in Wakulla County, a public nuisance by definition did occur with the livestock that was adjacent to my property, causing unsanitary and dangerous conditions to exist. We were swamped by flies. They are known to carry West Nile virus, encephalitis, and other diseases. They swarmed in and around my property by the close proximity of these livestock. Nothing was done by that, under that ordinance either. As stated in a letter to each of you, there are 21 homeowners in Emerald Acres. Only 5 of the 21 have livestock. By virtue of law, as I said, those 4 are legal. Only 1 is not. A statement was previously made by Commissioner Arts that if zoning is not changed, it wouldn't be fair to a new owner who might want to buy can-see livestock, but they can't have them. That's what you're asking us to do. I am surrounded by 5 homeowners in Emerald Acres. If they can have livestock, why can't I? If I had a new buyer come in and look at my property, they would want to know why they didn't have that same right. So it seems to me that it would be biased to change Emerald Acres to an RR2 to allow for livestock and not change the surrounding properties. Then if you change those that are joining Emerald Acres, the people on the other side are going to want the same thing, and it's going to go on and on and on. So you have to draw the line somewhere. If you change 21 properties to accommodate 1 owner, you have to change all the properties. I'm asking you not to rezone Emerald Acres. Leave it as it has been for 25 years with no problems. We've had no problems up until recently. Consider the owners, all the homeowners who have signed petitions for and against. Excuse me. Also consider the procedures that were not followed in rezoning these properties under County Ordinance 3-20. I also request an itemized statement of all charges that have incurred, since the homeowners didn't have to pay, as your code states, then the county taxpayers have incurred all these charges. That's charges for legal notices and all the charges that have incurred. And as a taxpayer, I'm part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Alan Reese?
Alan Reese, 294 Emerald Acres Drive. I lived in Emerald Acres for 39, almost 40 years. This is, I think, the 5th meeting that we've attended on this. My position has not changed from the beginning. I support the changed RR2. I have had livestock in the past. I do not have any now, so, you know, I would like to have that ability in the future. I have pastures, and one of them is fenced. If someone wanted to look at my property, it would probably have its greatest value to have livestock on it. So if you restrict that, you've limited my market as far as being able to sell my property for what it was designed to do. I did not know that the zoning had changed in 1985. Had I known that it changed in RR1, I would have opposed it then. I just did not know till all this occurred recently. Our original deeds, you know, did have a restriction there as far as commercial use, and I think that's valid. There should not be commercial livestock operations. There should not be something that is obnoxious to the neighbors that's causing a reduction in property value. I do understand and agree that this will make it compatible with the current land use, which I think is appropriate. It's an R2 land use, and going to RR2 would make it compatible with that land use, and I agree with that. So I support the change to RR2, and I want to thank the commissioners because you did do this as an administrative change, and I, for one, and probably others, really appreciate you doing that since it was something that happened 25 years ago that we were unaware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. James Harvey?
James Harvey, 45 Emerald Acres Drive, Crawfordville. Everybody talks about this, and everybody's got their own opinion. We was never told back in 1985 that the commissioners was going to rezone us. Not a one of us back there received a letter, any notification, and at that point in time we didn't all subscribe to the Wakulla News. But as far as a commercial enterprise, you can ask anybody that's lived in Emerald Acres. I am the biggest clutterer, and when I do something, I do nothing on a small scale. At one point in time, I had over 350 hogs on my place. Not once did any of the neighbors say anything. Had no complaints. I've had horses, I've had mules, I've had donkeys, I've had goats. I had over 400 turkeys. And the only thing I can say about a turkey is they'll pull every blade of grass you got up and drink the sky dry. But I've never had any complaints. We've got a super group of people that lives in Emerald Acres. And all of this has all come about because someone got their candy licked on and didn't like it. And I think it's time that the county commissioners, this has been going on for over a year, I think it's time that y'all make a decision and say yes or no. And further, I don't know, I understand y'all have a lot on your table, but we have lived with this for over a year. And truthfully, Brenda, I think the world of you. But enough's enough, you know, truthfully. And as far as I've got flies outside my window and the smell and blah, 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 let me tell you, between a computer and telescopic lenses on a camera, you can make the Ayatollah Khomeini sunbathing in your backyard. I mean, let's face facts. I've been over here at numerous times at the address where the horses are. They are at least a football field away from her property. You know, how can they be that bad? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Wayne Mitchell?
Thank you. My name is Wayne Mitchell. I reside at 29 Christian Lane, Crawfordville. I am not in the Emerald Acres subdivision. My property backs up to the one of the lots in Emerald Acres. I'd like to address both the BoCC, the property appraiser, permanent and zoning, and those that are affected by this possible rezoning. Let me start by saying, but back back on June 14th, 2010, at the first permanent zoning meeting, the whole issue for rezoning was over the land use of livestock. There was no issue then, there is no issue now. Livestock has always been allowed in Emerald Acre subdivision per the 1985 permanent zoning deeds. This was brought to the permanent zoning's attention as well as to BoCC's attention and the Wakulla attorney during the first and second meetings. This rezoning was over a nuisance animal dispute. So why are we here carrying this on? Permanent zoning admitted that Emerald Acres is the only subdivision in Wakulla County that has RR1 with livestock. And this subdivision in 1985, it actually had an animal nuisance clause in the deeds. It has been requested that should Emerald Acres be rezoned from RR1 to RR2, that the zoning change would not affect the property values that surround Emerald Acres. This request was sent to the Wakulla Board of County Commissioners, Wakulla Property Appraisers, and Wakulla County Permanent and Zoning. It was also requested that it be put in writing June 29th, 2010. As of yet, this issue has not been answered and or addressed. Why? My wife and I purchased our property back in April 2006. At that time, said property appraised for $144,240. Most recently, just this past month, September 2010, this same said property just appraised for $104,124. That's a $40,000 loss in a 4-year period of time. My wife and I do understand the economical loss due to the economy, but we cannot afford any more loss due to a rezoning change and over a nuisance animal dispute. It was brought to our attention that should there be a rezoning change to our property and or the surrounding properties, that this would affect any future appraisals, as of RR2 properties are valued less than properties of RR1, and RR1 properties values are affected by said properties that are next to RR2, such as overstock of livestock, types of livestock being raised and or boarded, etc., on the RR2 zone properties. My wife and I have copies of both of these appraisals. The purchase of this property back in April 2006 was an investment for us and our future. At the same time, everyone else in and around that have property in and around Emerald Acre subdivision is the same. Back in 1985, Wakulla County granted livestock to Emerald Acre subdivision under the RR1 zoning. Since this rezoning started, the BoCC, Property Appraiser, Permanent Zoning, and Wakulla County Attorney have been granted for their own copying the original copy of the Permanent Zoning property deed that was put into place by Wakulla County in 1985. This original permit and zoning deed should be placed back onto these Emerald Acres subdivision properties as designed and designated by Wakulla County originally, with no changes to the original Wakulla County permit and zoning deed of 1985, where all past and present property owners will abide by the existing 1985 property permit and zoning deed, allowing the owners of Emerald Acres to have livestock under RR1 zoning, along with the original livestock nuisance clause of 1985.
Is that finished?
Yeah, just about.
Try to wrap it up.
Okay. It was also brought to the permit and zoning and everybody's attention that these properties wouldn't meet some of the requirements of RR2 requirements, such as 3 homes under 5 acres, 2 homes under 1.5 to 2 acres that are required under the RR2.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop, really.
Okay.
We have to be, it's 3 minutes that's been allowed, and we're way over that right now, okay? Appreciate it.
No.
Thank you very much.
But I would like for it to stay and the old deeds be put back into place and leave it as RR1, please.
Okay, thank you. Anita Brown? Did I call this phone? Maybe that was him.
Good evening. My name's Anita Brown. I live at 254 Emerald Acres Drive, and my daughter and granddaughter live next door to me at 262 Emerald Acres Drive. Our family is one of the original home owners back there. we are one that you would consider the 4 or 5 that Ms. Mathers talked about. To clarify, one of the things that was said a while ago, yes, we do have original warranty deed when our family purchased that property. It states on there that we are allowed to have livestock, but not for commercial purposes. There is nothing as far as any kind of nuisance clause in that warranty deed. It just talks about that we are allowed to have livestock. My family was not aware 25 years ago that when they came in and rezoned that land, because we've been living the same from the day we purchased the property 39 years ago. We're down to the last meeting. This was supposed to be our final vote night. We've been this has been a very time-consuming process for the citizens as well as y'all. And, you know, I have a problem that Ms. Mathers comes in here at the last minute tonight with a petition that should have came about earlier in this process, because we're down to the final meeting. Each time it's been voted on, as well as the zoning board voted for it. Everyone has voted for it. We were under the assumption we were coming tonight to get our final vote, and then a few little things got thrown in. I do appreciate everything that y'all have done. Again, yes, I do have livestock on my land. We've had livestock on my land off and on through the years. Yes, we have had a break in between where we didn't have livestock, so her conformity that Ms. Mather spoke of would not work for the reason that you have an animal, it might pass away. You might go a little while before you get another animal. So I think anyone that was a citizen back there had a break. They would have to say there was a time that they might not have had an animal. So the conformity thing that's been spoke of would not work. I do appreciate the time that y'all have given us, and as a citizen, I am also a taxpayer. That's been brought up tonight, that I know that y'all doing this as an administrative thing. You were trying to right a wrong that happened 25 years ago. And I ask for y'all to consider, and again, I do support us making this change. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we set any kind of warning time? Is that possible? This is going from green to red, and they don't have any sense of... We'll take... Oh, is that right?
Coming up at 30 seconds.
Thank you. Mr. Ed Creel?
I'm Ed Creel, and live at 347 Emerald Acres Drive, and I won't take the full 3 minutes. I just have a few brief comments. During this whole ordeal, we have all been told half-truths and out-and-out lies. I know for a fact that the new petition that went around has gone around within the last few weeks, and one of the residents of Emerald Acres was told a half-truth and was deceived into signing that petition, because I spoke with the gentleman this evening, and he said that his name was supposed to have been stricken from that petition. This is about property rights. It all boils down to rights of people and their property. We purchased the property. I'm buying my property as well as the other residents in Emerald Acres, and we have a right to livestock. It was okay in the beginning that I had animals on there because Ms. Mathers had her animals on my property. But when she decided to get rid of them, then she objects. It's wrong, and for this to go this far because of one deceitful, evil, vindictive person is wrong. Other people are going to be punished for what, an evil person. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Faith Rayborn?
As I said before, I have a horse, and my horse is like my sister, and I really do not want to get rid of my sister. So please consider rezoning to RR2. Thank you.
Thank you. Franklin Moody.
I'm Franklin Moody at 278 Emerald Acres Drive. I've been living there since 1971. When I bought the property, on the deed it stated that we could have livestock and other animals, which I have had through the years. I don't have right now. And I appreciate the opportunity of having these animals, to enjoy them. And that's one of the reasons why I bought the property there. And at that time, it stated that we could have them and enjoy them and have them like we have them now. Until this incident come up, I didn't realize that it had been changed to RR1 when in the deed, really, it says two dwelling and everything, which indicates an RR2. And I'd really appreciate it being changed back to the original state so we continue to live our lives in enjoyment and appreciation for animals in our life and the things we do. Thank y'all for the time that y'all spent on this. Y'all spent a great deal of time. I really thank y'all for that, and hopefully we can get this thing settled, and the disputes, hopefully they can be settled between the ones that has the problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone I'm asking if everyone who was handed in a card was called to speak. Okay, I just want to make sure all the speakers were acknowledged. We're back to staff. If we have any questions from the board to the staff. I do have one, and that dealt with the item that was brought up on that 50% or 51% and the petitions. Could you please address those two?
Sure. This item was brought forth by county staff as an administrative rezoning. In your procedures, it's in section 3-20 of the code. If a group of property owners comes forward to the county requesting a rezoning of their property, we do require a petition of 51%, but that's a different factual situation than you're faced with tonight. The petition that was done in this case by county staff was merely to get a feel for the sentiment of the property owners in the area. It was not legally binding, nor was it required to be.
Thank you. Any further questions from?
I want to repeat what I said last time. Is I'm concerned that I'm going to vote for it, but I want to make sure that we don't allow any commercial. I mean, I'm kind of disturbed by the gentleman who had 250 hogs. I mean, that's amazing to me. To me, that sounds like a commercial activity, and I don't want to see that happening if we change it to R2. And how do we do that, Heather? I mean, how do we prevent that?
Well, R2 is residential. Commercial activities are not allowed within that zoning district. It's a residential-only district. What would I consider commercial? A use not customarily incidental to an ongoing residential dwelling unit.
So 250 hogs would be over that boundary, maybe?
Maybe.
I'm not going to vote for it if that's going to be allowed. I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't want that in my neighborhood.
It's going to be a factual inquiry. It would go through code enforcement, so all those facts would have to come out at that time if we had a situation like that.
Okay, that's the only issue I have with it.
This change has to take place to make it match the future land use map.
Under the existing future land use designation, the maximum density is one dwelling unit per 2 acres. So an RR1, where you could conceivably have one dwelling unit per 1 acre, is incompatible, and nobody in an RR1 with an overriding future land use of rural 2 would be able to develop to their maximum density. This change would make it compatible.
move that we conduct the third of three public hearings and vote to adopt the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning atlas, amending the zoning district from RR1 semi-rural residential to RR2 rural residential based upon any findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Arts. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. We're on to the next planning and zoning item, which again is quasi-judicial. This is a request for variance V10-05 for a minimum lot size variance from rural residential RR2 2-acre minimum lot size to 1.64 acre parcel located at 156 Emerald Acres Drive. Property owners James and Patricia Revel, and the applicant is the county. Request staff to verify if the required notices have been provided.
That's correct.
Thank you. County Attorney?
Thank you. This is a companion item that really goes along with the Emerald Acres rezoning. If you have any additional ex parte communications dealing solely with this, you can disclose them now. Otherwise, I would assume that your prior disclosures still apply.
I've been to the site since the last meeting, I believe, and spoke with family.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone who wishes to testify on this matter who was not previously sworn in under the Emerald Acres rezoning? Okay. Melissa?
All right, this next item is application for variance V10-05, and as a result of the last item, this property's zoning is the RR2 zoning district, and the RR2 district does have a minimum 2-acre lot size. This variance request is for tract 2 of Emerald Acres subdivision, which is located at 156 Emerald Acres Drive, and this tract contains 1.64 acres, and therefore a lot size variance of 20% is required for this tract to be in compliance with the RR2 zoning district. On September 13th, 2010, the application was reviewed by the Planning Commission. The Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the variance request. The Board also considered this application as our October 4th public hearing, but a vote was not taken as that was for consideration only. The future land use designation for the property is Rural 2. And the subject property has existed in its current size since at least 1992. And at that time, the 1.64 acre parcel was in compliance with the 1 acre lot size minimum that was required through the RR1 zoning district. And due to the fact that the Rural 2 designation was not adopted until 1995, the lot in its current size predates that future land use minimum 2 acre requirement, and so that 2 acre minimum is sort of waived, if you will, and is considered a pre-existing lot of record. And so this variance request would just be for the zoning district's minimum lot size. The flood zones for the property are A and C. Currently, there is a single-family residence on the site with accessory structures, and no environmentally sensitive features are known to be located on the property. The advertisement for this public hearing was in the August 26, 2010 edition of the Wakulla News, and the recommendation for this item is option 1. The Planning Commission, as your local planning agency, did recommend approval for the variance request.
Other questions from staff from the board? Is there public comment on this item? None. So we'd entertain a motion at this point in time.
I move that we conduct a public hearing and vote to approve application for variance B10-05, considering any findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Green. Further questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Otts?
Yes, thank you. I do have a question for Melissa. Depending on which map you look at, lot 262 or 262, that's over 2 acres. It's not lot, I guess it's the address 262.
I apologize, I put my eyes on to see that far away.
Well, you can't see it on that map.
262, you have to see it there on the east side. Yes, that one I did verify that all of the lots do contain over 2 acres, except for that one you have there on the north side.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Commissioner Kessler, before we move on, at the last vote, I did want to actually cast a vote against it instead of being unanimous. I don't know. We didn't ask for it. Is it too late? If not, it's not a big deal.
He didn't cast a vote, but he didn't say anything either.
County Attorney?
Doesn't affect the outcome. It was just, and I was trying to figure out if it was worth mentioning or not, and that took too long. Okay. No
Well,
worries.
technically, we've already started the vote on the second item. so-
Okay, no big deal. Okay, no big deal.
Okay. Let's leave planning and zoning items at present. Go to
Citizens'
Ross,
Union.
you wanted something?
I know a lot of people have already left, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the residents of Emerald Acres and the neighbors outside, how long and arduous this process has been. But I hope that people will work together now to try and bring peace back to the area. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
I echo your comments, Commissioner Arts. I have friends on both sides of this issue, and it is a difficult issue to decide as this goes. I mean, I think both sides had valid arguments, sincerely.
Okay. We're into citizens to be heard at the present time. Mr. U. Taylor, help. Mr. Luther Council. Still here? Okay, Mr. Luther Council's not here?
Citizens to be heard.
Citizens to be heard.
They might just be outside. You might want to make sure people...
No.
Do you want to take a break and let everyone know? Because a lot of people walked outside. I saw a bunch of people still outside.
Okay. Go on. Mr. Larry Roberts?
Did you call Mr. Taylor?
I did, but Mr. Taylor, fine.
As a matter of fact, sir, if you can, I would give Mr. Taylor some right now, because I think he's going to Christmas Day, so.
Well, that has to be prearranged.
Well, I asked you to go, bear with me, because of getting it all out, I guess. I thank you. My name is Hugh Taylor. I live on Martin Luther King Road. And I was here last meeting talking about push polling, which is a particularly insidious way to influence and manipulate voting. It's also expensive. After I spoke about it, I got some prices. Where's the big money? And it's also expensive to send multiple mailings. I got my last today, so I guess we've gotten one a day for the past 3 mail days. And I wouldn't be here because I'm here because the latest postcard refers to a headline 2 weeks old. The phony headline that was already a
apologized for and debunked. It looks like Citizens for Accountability, whoever they are, sponsored them. Well, whoever they are is a big money group out of South Florida. And why? Why would they be interested in spending whatever they spent, $50,000 or $60,000 on a local race in a little old county? This is big money. From August the 12th to 10/20, they raised $121,000, mostly out of South Florida, collecting money from all over for their candidates. Why? It's common knowledge among well drillers and hydrologists that the water table is dropping. Please keep that in mind. Just ask them. We were saved this year by the rains. I think Citizens for whatever in the world it is, accountability is fronting for citizens who want to come and steal our water. Why else would they be here? To build houses? No houses. I ask everyone to consider this, and I will leave. When voting tomorrow, consider push polling and all this big money stuff that they're spending on you all and me to influence our vote. Vote for the one person who can stand up against them, Dr. Howard Kessler. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Luther, counsel. Mr. Stephen Calhoun.
My name is Steve Calhoun. I live at 211 Bettywood Circle.
You're lower your head.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to bring some good news for you. I hear giggles. You recently approved the temporary outsourcing of the ARRA portion of the weatherization program. Well, I'm here tonight to let you know how outsourcing is going for the people of Wakulla County. Here's some numbers I'd like you to remember. The number 2, the number 6, the number 2, the number 7, and number 15. Capital Area started putting homes out to bid on October 15th. That's just 2 weeks ago. To date, Capital Area has completed the weatherization of 6 homes in Wakulla County. 2 are still in mid-work, will be done by the end of the week. 7 additional homes have been awarded to contractors and are scheduled to be completed by the end of the week also. That's a total of 15 homes. That's 15 families in Wakulla County that have been directly and immediately benefited from your decision to outsource. Ladies and gentlemen, outsourcing works for Wakulla County. Outsourcing helps the people of Wakulla County. If we truly want what is best in the interest of the people of Wakulla County, then we need and must continue with the process of outsourcing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Roberts, do you want to speak?
Larry Roberts, Stop Chappie. Mr. Taylor pretty well covered what I wish to say, but I would like to emphasize this is not about jobs. That big money is being spent, and it's about water. People in South Florida and various other places are going to make a lot of money if they can export our water. There will be a few people from Wakulla County that'll make a lot of money also, but it won't be the people that needs jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanna Peck.
Stanna
Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Gosh, these things really brought us out of the woodwork, didn't it? I got this in my mailbox this past week, too, and it sounded like to me that Commissioner Kessler is the only person responsible for the unemployment rate in this county. And I thought that maybe the rest of you, the other four, might like to say that you have a hand in creating jobs when the opportunity is there also, that it is not single-handed. I also seem to remember that Commissioner Kessler was just praised in the newspaper a few weeks ago for working so diligently to get the Ecotourism Institute here, which I believe would create jobs, and I'm sure there's a long list of accomplishments beyond that. So this seemed pretty bogus and pretty interesting, and I didn't know where Coconut, Florida is either. And I don't think the people of Wakulla County are so unsmart that they would fall for this kind of stuff. But I'm also here because Commissioner Kessler has opposed jobs on one occasion, and I think that was Mr. Pingree's expanding the county administration offices and employees with higher salaries than the rest of the constitutional officers' employees in this county. The rest of you didn't seem to go out of your way to oppose that. Mr. Kessler did oppose that expansion of Mr. Pingree's administration. I'm here, though, really because I was named in another postcard, and since my name was on it, I thought, shoot, I'll take this opportunity to talk about it. I've been in professional journalism for many decades now, in one form or fashion, and I know censorship. And I think Commissioner Stewart knows censorship. That's when you try to throw someone out and tell them that even though they're a law-abiding citizen, they may not speak to you during Citizens to be Heard because the commissioner didn't like what something was about to be said. Here's what censorship isn't. When a newspaper pulls its newspapers from the stands, it's because the boss of that newspaper said, get it off, and get it off quick. Because what is reported in that paper is so damaging, so fabricated, so not based on reported fact that we are in deep, deep trouble. Get those papers off the stands. And so the papers of the Wakulla News came off the stands because of the fabrication, the reckless disregard for the truth, and perhaps the malice that was in the reporting in those newspapers. Not because somebody wanted it off the stand, but because the boss said so. It is unpatriotic to be a censor of public voice. It is not censorship to take newspapers off your stands because you're about to lose some money if you keep them there. I would hope this next commission in November will not be unpatriotic and un-American, and that each of you would guarantee that citizens have the right to speak to you in the future.
Thank you. We're back into planning and zoning. Possibly we can handle one or two of those items before taking a small break. Everyone okay to go on? Okay. So we're on to item 13, which again is going to be a quasi-judicial procedure. And this is a request for change of zoning R10-05 from agriculture AG to rural residential RR5 on a 51.32 acre parcel located the west side of Old Bethel Road across from Windsong subdivision. Property owner is Ann Boynton Investments LLC, and the agent is Ben Boynton and Edwin Brown Associates. Staff have the required notices provided.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. County Attorney?
Thank you. In accordance with your code, y'all need to disclose your ex parte communications of any written or verbal regarding this matter.
I attended the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I got to hear Mr. Boynton and Wade Brown speak there. I've had some limited conversations with staff.
Commissioner Green?
I've had no contact with the principals.
I've had no contact other than notice on county documents.
Nothing.
None.
Thank you. Anyone who is going to speak to this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Staff?
Okay, as previously stated, this application is for change of zoning R10-05. And at the October 11th, 2010 public hearing of the Planning Commission, they did consider this item and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning. The future land use designation for the subject property is Rural 2. The proposed RR5 zoning district allows for a residential density of 1 unit per 5 acres of land and permits the construction of site-built single-family dwellings, placement of mobile homes, and also various agricultural production activities, such as the presence of livestock. The FEMA flood zone designation for the property is Zone C, which is listed to be at risk for minimal flooding. Private wells will service the water for this site, and sewage would be contained by performance-based septic systems at each residence. Currently, the site is vacant, and no environmentally sensitive features are known to be present on the property. And it is important to note that Wakulla County recently paved the portion of Old Bethel Road along which this property gains its access. Surrounding parcels are zoned agriculture, RR5 and RR1. And the proposed RR5 zoning district is consistent with the future land use map designation and its allowable density. The advertisement for this public hearing appeared in the Wakulla News, edition September 23rd, 2010, and the September 30th, 2010 edition. And per the requirement of the Land Development Code, any zoning change which encompasses more than 10 acres in size is required to be considered at 2 public hearings before the board. And so this meeting would be the first of those public hearings and is for consideration only. No vote is requested this evening. And be happy to answer any questions you have.
Move to conduct the first of 2 public hearings and consider adoption of the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning map, amending the official zoning from agriculture zoning district to rural residential 5 zoning district, based upon the recommendations of staff, the recommendations of the planning commissions, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Brock and seconded by Commissioner Stewart. Are there any additional questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, I'll ask a couple of questions. As I understand it, the future land use as stands would permit 1 per 5
That's correct.
acres, 1 house per 5 acres. And that is exactly what this developer is requesting.
That is correct.
And there actually is some disjointedness between our zoning that's there and the comprehensive plan.
That is true. The Rural 2 land use, as you stated, does allow for 1 unit per every 5 acres. However, the agricultural zoning district, which is in place, does not allow for properties to be divided into less than 10-acre tracts. And so there is a bit of non-consistency between the existing zoning and the future land use.
Thank you. We have any additional questions? We have some, I don't know if it's just for information or questions. Okay, so we'll skip that. Okay, and I think we're basically concluded as far as conducting the public hearing on this. Is that correct?
There's nobody to speak. You guys waive, nobody else?
Right. Okay, so we can go on.
Okay, you'll have your second public hearing.
Yes, December the 1st.
Okay. Good. So now we're on
Excuse
to...
me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It'll be December 6th is the next public hearing where the vote will be taken on this item.
December 6th.
December 6th.
Okay, so the next public hearing is December 6th. Is that what you have? Okay, great. We're now into item 14, which again is a quasi-judicial item.
Did we need to vote?
No, there's no vote this evening. It's the first of the public hearings.
Right.
We vote to hold
There
the
was a
public hearing.
motion to hold the public
Oh, I'm sorry.
hearing.
Did you not vote on that?
Okay.
You're voting to have the public hearing.
Right.
I thought you already voted on
So,
it.
we've already had it, but all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, so the item 14 is a request for a change of zoning R10-06 from agriculture AG to rural residential R5 on a 63.969 acre parcel located north side of Zion Hill Road and west of Crawfordville Highway. The property owner is Ben C. Boynton. Boynton and the family, FLP, and the agent is Ben Boynton and Edward Brown Associates. Again, this is a quasi-judicial matter, and has staff received the required, or provided the required notices?
Yes, sir.
Okay, County Attorney?
Are there any additional ex parte communications regarding this item?
Mine's the same as before.
None.
Everyone reflected no additional. Is anyone wishing to testify on this item who was not previously sworn?
Wait a second, I take that back. I did have some additional verbal and email communications with someone who lives near here.
Sorry. Thank you. Anyone wishing to testify on this matter who was not previously sworn? You're still under oath. Thank you, Melissa.
All right, the last planning and zoning item, application for change of zoning R10-06. As previously stated, this is a request to change the zoning district from AG or agriculture to the RR5 district, which is the rural residential. And this is for a 63.96 piece of a larger 161.56 acre property. On October 11th, 2010, the Planning Commission did consider this application and recommended unanimously for approval. The future land use map designation for this property is listed as Rural 3. Rural 3 does allow for one dwelling unit per 1 acre of land. And it is important to note that this Rural 3 land use was achieved for this larger 161-acre property through a comprehensive plan map amendment back in 2004. And when that was approved, it had a special area plan, or SAP, which was attached to the property. And the requirements within that SAP seek to protect it because it was noted to be extremely environmentally sensitive and has numerous karst features, and so those requirements pertain to stormwater, landscaping, and things of that nature. And those requirements have been looked at and really come into play whenever a preliminary plat would come back before you in the future with the property owner would like to seek to divide it in that manner. The proposed RR5 zoning district allows for a density of one dwelling unit per 5 acres of land and permits the construction of site-built single-family dwellings, allows the placement of mobile homes, and does allow for livestock. The FEMA flood zone designation for this area is Zone C, which is listed at risk for minimal flooding. The property does have access to central water through Talquin, and sanitary sewer can be provided to this property by Wakulla County. And as noted before, the property does contain various sensitive environmental features, such as karst. Properties adjoining the subject property are zoned agriculture, which allow a similar density to what you have here, 1 unit per 5 acres. However, that agriculture zoning district does have a restriction that does not allow lots to be created that are less than 10 acres in size, which is quite a far distance from what the rural 3 land use would allow at 1 unit to 1 acre. And the proposed RR5 zoning district is consistent with that future land use designation, as the requested density falls well below what is allowable. The advertisement for this public hearing was noticed in the Wakulla News edition September 23rd, 2010 and September 30th, 2010. And this item, like the last one, this is the first of 2 public hearings before the board. Staff is requesting your consideration of this rezoning tonight, and this will come back before you at the December 6th public hearing for final consideration and vote.
Move to conduct the first of 2 public hearings and consider adoption of the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning map, amending the official zoning from agriculture zoning district 2, rural residential zoning district 5, based upon the recommendation of staff, the recommendation of the planning commission, and the findings of fact and the conclusions of law made by the board, and any evidence submitted at the hearings hereon.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Brock, second by Commissioner Stewart. Any further questions or discussion by the board? Yes, Commissioner Ross. No, please.
This is in Wakulla Springs special, I forget the exact.
The special planning area.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to support the motion to hold the public hearing, but I had reservations about this property because of its environmentally sensitive area, because it is in the Wakulla Springs planning, special planning area. Also because of its proximity to 319 and putting more cars on 319. And I would love to see Ray Gray, who's looking for a northern park, finds the money to buy this for a northern park. Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I have questions for staff, just for clarity. As I understand it, this what we have in place would allow, with water and sewer, 1 house per 1 acre according to our comp plan.
That's correct.
And this is asking for 1 house per 5 acres.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
A lower density than
Yes.
it exists now.
Yes, as far as what's on the table. Okay. Commissioner Brock?
So these public hearings, are we supposed to vote and then have citizens come speak? I'm confused on the order.
There are no citizens.
None? Okay.
That's correct. Right. Well, I only received the 2 cards for, actually it's for 13, but I assume that if you wanted to, you had filled out another 2 cards, you would certainly be allowed to speak. Okay, so we've gone through this. If there are no citizens, we're ready to vote on the motion to conduct the public hearing, which is sort of retroactive. I call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, at this time we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll resume. Thank you. We'll resume the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, and we're at item number 16 under general business.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I'll just give you a brief overview of the item and take from there. This is the update to the board, request of the board for options to purchase an arena for the Wakulla Equestrian project with funding from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program, FERDAP.
Let's we have a little problem hearing our speaker, so let's, okay, please begin again, Mr. Borden.
Okay, sure. Commissioners, this is an item to get board direction on options to purchase an arena for the equestrian project that's funded through FERDAP. The board remembers back in 2007, the county applied for a FERDAP grant for $200,000 for an equestrian center to be located at the Wellhorn Mill site, 160-acre site here in Wakulla County. At the time, the grant included primary activities of a horse arena, picnic tables, trash cans, multi-use trails, playground, along with secondary support activities which included a restroom, parking, lighting, etc. The grant was approved in 2008, August 15th. However, the allocation was reduced down to $135,661. Since that time, staff has been working to try to move this project along. As we said, we cited the location to be at the Wellhorn Mill site. In this agenda item, we're presenting two options for the board to consider. During staff's research and with the Horsemen's Association, one of those options is an arena that's up in Moultrie, Georgia, an existing arena. It's a former rodeo site that is being offered for $75,000 from the seller. The site is champion quality, steel construction, and it's a professional rodeo arena. Part of the problem with this arena is that some of the cons is that it's an older facility. It's about 15 years old. The cost is beyond the FERDAP grants without some outside commitment from the association. And currently it's built at 80-mile-an-hour wind loads, and the county requires 125-mile-an-hour wind loads. The other option that is presented tonight is it's a quote from Rodeo West. It's basically for an arena. It doesn't include a cover. The cost of both of these arenas is about $132,611, which is about the balance that we have left in available funds in the granting from the granting agency. It should be important to note that with any project that we move forward, there is recurring costs annually. There's a daily upkeep, maintenance that will require an allocation. Some of the similar projects that you might note this is the Big Bend Maritime Center, which we just got up and running this past year. The Wakulla County Community Center. We have some other FCT projects that require annual maintenance. So anytime we embark on a new project, there's some costs that need to be considered as we move forward to maintain and operate these facilities. Staff has noted here that they anticipate about $14,000 annually for the electrical, telephone, water and sewer, mowing, and just general maintenance of the facility. So thought it should be noted that those are a concern. At this time, we're asking for board direction on which option they would like to go with. It should be noted that with either option you approve, there's going to be some waiver of the purchasing policy, either the bidding, competitive bidding, if we're going with option number 2, or we'll have to invoke one of our exemptions since Moultrie Arena is a single source, sole source provider. So I'll note that Eva Thorpe, the grants manager, as well as Greg Gray, the Parks and Rec director, are here for any comments or questions, as well as the Horsemen's Association. With that, I'll leave the floor.
Do you mind hearing from the citizens before we make our motion?
We can do that. That's fine. Very good. Will we could also ask questions of staff, and we could do both. So maybe we should ask some questions of staff first, and let the citizens speak. Maybe some of their questions would be resolved when we ask questions of staff.
Okay.
I just want to note that
please,
on the Moultrie, I mean, I've read this thing thoroughly, and I want to move in some direction. I'm still not big on this Moultrie, Georgia arena. If you look at the cost analysis, we're going to pay $120,000 for that facility. I mean, that's what you're going to have to buy it, and then you have to bring it down here and set it up. 120 grand. I mean, that's the real cost. If you look at disassembly, transport, reconstruction, $120,000. Our grant has allowed us $60,000, half of that. Where's the other $60,000 going to come from? The county doesn't have $60,000. Does the Horsemen's Association have $60,000? And that's where I'm going. I mean, we got to be realistic about what we want. The other part that bothers me about the Moultrie Arena, and I talked to a steel worker that has been in the business all his life, and I asked a question. I said, is it normal to tear down a facility like that and move it and put it back up? And he said, oh yeah, it happens all the time. And he said, it could be done. He said, you know, it would cost. Some of the stuff will work and some stuff won't when you get it down here. And you'll have to buy pieces and parts that you either broke in the process, like bolts and nuts and washers and, you know, the concrete you'll have to put down and all those other things. So I don't think even $120,000 covers the cost of what it will be just to get the building from Moultrie, Georgia, down here and set up. And then I don't know how much it would cost to improve the wind load from 80 miles an hour to 120 miles an hour. I don't know what that takes. I'm not an engineer, so I can't begin to guess what that is. That'll be additional cost on top of that $120,000. So after studying all this and asking the questions I asked, I'm back to the idea of just going out here and buying this new arena from Rodeo West or wherever we get it, and build something we can start with. Get you guys started in the right direction with the facility, and then we add on to it as we can with grants every year. Let's work hard at trying to improve that. I'd a whole lot rather go that direction than I had go to Moultrie and haul a pig in the poke down here and spend $120,000 to $200,000 to set it up. And I believe that's what the real cost will end up being. The real cost. So that's what bothers me.
I had a meeting with some of the staff, and I know there was going to be an effort to get some additional prices. Did we get those? We're going to try and look at what the cost would be to shore it up to meet the 120 mile per hour wind if we move the Moultrie one here. And we're also going to look at what's the cost of adding a cover to the Rodeo West one. Did anybody?
Commissioner, I have quotes that I got back. They're a little bit dated back in March or April for just a steel building cover. And for one that's comparable in size, it's upward of $120,000 for something as big as the one in Moultrie, just to put the roof over it. So those are just preliminary quotes from a few contractors that I contacted. I don't know if, Ray, did we ever get an estimate for wind loading it to 120? Or I know that we had asked Pebble Ridge to help us with that, but I don't know if they've completed that study yet.
My name is Alan Wise with Pebble Ridge. The short answer to that is no. To give you a solid answer, we'd have to see the facility set up, transported, set up, analyze it, and then give you recommendations on what would need to be done to beef up the support of the structure. I know it's an open-ended answer, but it kind of speaks to Commissioner Stewart's point.
There's a lot of unknown cost. That's my point. I mean, we drag it down here. What have we got? We got a building that's rusty, it's in pieces, and will it work? Who knows? We put it up, and we still got to improve the wind load capability of it. I'm just really against this idea. I want to see us go more towards, and I hope these are real numbers from somebody who, I hope we just didn't pull these out of the air, this Rodeo West. I assume that's somebody quote those numbers?
That's arena panels is what it is.
Okay.
That's panels. That's a fence.
I'm through.
Okay, well, you know, and that's, I guess, Tim, what I'm having a problem with in this, well, are we comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges? These, what the prices that come forward from the Rodeo West, is it the same package that would be moving down here from Moultrie? And it doesn't seem to be. And can you explain the differences simply, and what are the major things that are missing, and what are the major things that are, you know, what are we getting in one package, what are we getting together, what does it cost with the one package, even though we don't know what it would cost to do that wind load analysis and then beef it up, but what are our costs, what are we getting, and what are we...
Well, I think the biggest thing you're not getting is a roof. If you go with the Rodeo West arena, you're not going. It's not going to be covered. The one in Moultrie is going to have. It's a metal building structure. It's got a roof over it. So, I mean, that's the biggest difference that I can see.
And that difference, if we were to go out and the one that the one from Rodeo West would not have a roof.
Correct.
And the price of putting a roof on the one from Rodeo West, you said, would be $120,000. $120,000 to put a roof on the Rodeo West. Is that what you're saying to me?
In upwards of them, yes, depending on what kind. If you wanted, you know, I've gotten quotes from different kind, like the clear stand. I've gotten quotes from regular steel structures, kind of like the one that's been up there in Moultrie, and they were upwards of $100,000. Probably for one, I didn't quote it for 200 by 300. I quoted it for 100 by 300, and it was like 120,000 and above. So.
Okay, so what's the size of the Moultrie arena then?
It's 200 by 300.
200 by 300. That would be, and that comes with a roof.
Yes.
We know it's 15 years old, but it comes with a roof. And that's the major difference between the two packages. One is going to be size that I'm hearing, and the second is going to be one has a roof and one doesn't have a roof.
Correct.
Okay. So
size is the same.
Same size is the same.
Okay. I'm sorry. So why would you get a bit of a smaller size? And I missed that.
I just was getting guesstimates on just trying to test the market and see how much, get an estimate of how it costs. This was done back in April, Commissioner, so it wasn't something I did up just recently. We'd probably have to test the market again and see if it's...
Well, if we're dealing with a smaller size, we can only assume it's going to be a higher price.
Correct.
Okay, so what I need to understand is, what are we getting from Moultrie? And if we were to get this, how would that compare to getting the same thing from Rodeo West or any other company? That's the only way I think I can compare apples to apples over here, with the unknown still being whatever it takes to do the wind loads.
Well, you're absolutely correct, Commissioner. They're not apples to apples comparison. One is an older facility that's got most of what's, it's mostly in place. It's got the arena, it's got the fencing, it's got the roof. To price out, I can pretty much guarantee you the price out on an arena similar size, brand new, is going to be well over what the grant allows for. So, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but...
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
yes, please.
I see where you're going. My point is the real cost of the facility is not just merely that $75,000. You're right, it's apples and oranges. One is covered, one isn't. One's got a lot more amenities to it. But the problem is that you're going to spend at least, my best people I've talked to, you're going to pay $75,000 just for the building. You're going to pay another more than $75,000 to set it up before you can ever do business in it. Period. We got $150,000 in just that. That's before we do all these other things like restroom facilities, permitting, water and sewer, electrical, all that. That's what concerns me. And then the parts and pieces that don't match when they get here, after we've torn it apart, we've got to replace or buy. And it's if you could pick the facility up with a big helicopter and bring it down here and set it back down out there in the forest, and pay the $75,000, then it might be worth thinking about. That's not feasible, so I'm back over here to the Rodeo West Arena, or let's go out and bid this thing back out, bid it out, and find somebody who will build us something for this $135,000 that we got to spend. That's what I'd like to see. I don't know why we haven't done that already. I don't know why we're this far along in this project and not have done that. I'm not sure.
So,
as you've explored other contracting out with like Rodeo West to see what they're going to do, have we explored other options for roofs versus steel? Like, for instance, I think the sheriff's rodeo area, which I'm sure is different, has like a tint roof. But I'm assuming it's a lot cheaper than having a steel roof.
That was over $200,000.
Was it? But I'm wrong.
And it was smaller, much smaller, and metal top. You got it.
Okay, yeah, we're going to get you up here so you can put that all on the record. Okay, so, yeah, I just hate the scramble. It's right down to here we are, and the grants are getting ready to evaporate, and we're here.
I'd rather play it safe and build, and maybe they're in opposition to this, but I want to build them something. I think we should do that. And I think we're wiser, wisdom being in place here, that we build this smaller facility with something that we know is going to have a warranty on it, number one. It's going to, we can stay within our budget but we don't have any money to put towards this thing. We can't even man it. They're going, these good folks have said they'll man it and take in the funds to help keep it open. But we got another facility up here we just approved that we don't even know how we're going to man yet when the courthouse gets out of it. This, I think, is a turnkey project where we get something that we get a warranty with, you turn the lights on, and you go have a rodeo. Now, can you do it in foul weather? No, but that's better than nothing. You just can get out there and do it in fair weather. And then the next year we apply for a grant to put a roof over it, and so on and so on. That's what I'd like to see us do. Err on that side and not lose this grant. I agree. I think we're too, the train's gone down the track too far. Why we haven't done more to secure? I mean, it looks like we were hell bent to go get this building out of Moultrie, and no concern that we might ever do this one, this smaller version. Not a small version. It's just an uncovered version.
Well, in reading it seems just the opposite, actually, and it seems to be, the Moultrie one is sort of described in pretty poor terms, and doesn't seem like staff is really going down the Moultrie Avenue. But the question, of course, and this is, I don't want to debate this, is why didn't we get this, when this Moultrie arena popped up, why didn't we get that straightened out? We're either going to go for it, not go for it, and then we could have moved on and, had other bids. But right now, I guess I'd like to hear from the Horsemen's Association to see what they think is appropriate.
My name is Jim Porter with the Wakulla County Horsemen Association. On your, I do get your point, Mr. Stewart. We're pretty close to the end of the thing. I brought this up to Mr. Barden and Ray Gray, and I know Ray Gray and Eva Thorpe has been working a lot on it. But it's been over there. We've met a couple times with Mr. Barden, and nothing's been done with it. So now we probably are out of time. Reading this, they're saying, there's just not enough time now, and it's probably right. If you wait long enough and don't do your job long enough, you just don't have to do it. But the thing is the getting the cover is a big thing for the county, and not just for Wakulla County Horsemen Association, and not just for riding horses. There's all kinds of things that can be done undercover. I've talked to people that do dogs, they run their dogs and do different things with dogs. They love to have a covered arena to do it in. Anything you do outside, if it's covered, it changes it all. The NBHA, the National Barrel Horse Association, they got rained out half their shows last year. They would use that facility. There's a lot of different places. There's not one until you go to Mariana or you go over to Ocala, another covered arena that's available. It'd bring a lot to the county. That's why I just hate to see that this thing has really just just nothing would be done, nothing would be done, nothing would be done. And I kept calling, I kept talking for a year now. And then finally I came over here and started talking, because nothing was getting done, and I saw the grant's going to run out. And now, of course, now things have started to happen. They go better downhill than they do uphill, obviously. Things, some attention's been gotten, and it's gotten some attention. But it's just a shame that because we sat and didn't do anything, and I know we're saying it's an old facility, but again, like I said last time, it's steel I-beams and a metal roof, is what it is. And it's got lights, it's got the electric run, it's got an announcer's booth that's built in the top of it. It's got a lot of stuff to it. It's got places to keep bulls and keep all kind of livestock. It's got, for the $45,000 that you're talking about here is panels. It has the panels too that come with it. And it also has more footage of panels, to make the arena out of. But, at this point, I don't know, whether it could be done. That's why I was asking just to bid it out and see, I mean, we really are still just guessing that it's too expensive. We're guessing that it's this and guessing it's that. What I kept asking was just bid it out and see. And if it is, great, let's go secure it, But if the county could get a covered arena, it would be well ahead of the game.
There's no doubt to me that we're over budget. I mean, the very first line is $75,000. The FERDAP grant allows us $60,000. There's a $15,000 delta. Who's going to come up with that money? Right. Okay, you read on down the list and you add all the numbers up, sir. You got $150,000 worth of building, and then you got to put it together. I mean, that's my point.
I totally understand what you're saying, except the numbers aren't. I mean, we haven't confirmed any of them numbers, other than what he wants for the arena. And if we offered him $50,000, I don't know if he wouldn't take it. I mean, I don't know. But we haven't confirmed any numbers. So
I agree with you. Somebody has dragged their tail on this.
Yes, for over a year since that deal. But regardless, at least something ought to be done. To your point, go ahead and do something. Don't just let the money go away either.
I agree.
And then continue doing grants and trying to get a cover. So if that's how it's got to go.
So help me with the Moultrie and help me with this Rodeo West. They're the same size. Both have restrooms.
No, neither one. Well, in the additional, the Rodeo West is for the panels. The $45,000 is for a 200 by 300 foot of panels. That's what that is. And then you have the additional cost for the lights, the restrooms, everything else. That's on the other one. On the Rodeo West, arena installation costs, which I mean is, we would certainly volunteer. We have volunteered and we'll continue to volunteer. We would put it up. We would paint the restrooms on the paint contractor. We'll paint the bathrooms. We'll paint, there's a lot of things that in the group we can do and will and have done. We've rebuilt the restrooms over here at this facility. We're willing to do and help, to make the thing happen. That's why I think if we could have bid it out, one of the policies of the county is that if you get some of the local people around here that may be, if I decide to paint your house for $100, I can do that. Well, if one of the local contractors would have said, we'll move that thing to help the county out and help the kids of the county and the people of the county, we'll do it for cost, We don't know that wouldn't happen, but we couldn't bid it out because if they get involved beforehand, they're not allowed to bid on the project. So even if, say, Ben Withers was a nice guy and said, I'll do it for $10,000, he can't do it for $10,000 because he can't bid on it no more because he got involved beforehand. But we have not bid it out. We have not gotten any numbers. So he's not allowed to bid on the project. So how do, I'm willing to paint the thing at my cost. How do you know somebody else in the county isn't willing to help out to make it happen?
I agree.
How do you know that a lot of these numbers are, if we're going to bid out and get everybody to do it, but if I paint the restrooms for free, who's to say somebody else won't do something for free to help the county? That's why I kept saying, let's bid it out and get real numbers that we can see, because we don't know. Yeah, we know what the guy in Georgia might charge, or somebody else might charge, but we don't know any real numbers. And I think, in time, if we did get some real numbers, that potentially it could happen. Maybe the guy will take $50,000. Maybe the guy, maybe somebody will move it at a lower price. Maybe, maybe these numbers could come down a lot and have a covered arena.
So, am I right to assume that you're representing the Horsemen's Association?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What would be the position of the Horsemen's Association if we were able, because this Moultrie Arena is a single source item, according to Mr. Barton. It's a unique thing. If we were able to purchase this, move it down here, erect it with volunteer help or whatever else is happening, and we couldn't do much more of anything, versus the other arena, which is new, without a roof, and maybe...
All right, on that, just to say, I don't think you can do that within the grant. My understanding is that you have to do all the pieces of the grant for the grant to be good. So if we couldn't do it within the grant money and still have the restrooms and still have the things that were specified up front that we're going to do in this grant, you have to do all them. So if you could only afford the arena, then we couldn't do it. Because you have to do the restrooms, you have to do the picnic area, you have to do the playground, all the things that were specified in the grant.
Is that 132?
Yes. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so you couldn't do just that and get by with it, because you have to fulfill the grant.
I just you can make numbers do anything.
Exactly. I agree with that.
So I'm looking at different numbers.
I guess what I would say is, if it could work, it'd be great. I just hate that we're going to give up before we ever tried. I've been trying for a year, and we're giving up before we ever tried.
Now we're in the 11th hour.
I understand that. That's why I've been coming for this is the third meeting in a row I've come to try to bring this up.
Mr. Barton, what is the deadline?
April.
To have this thing completed? April 2011. Can this be done and still, and if it doesn't work out with the bidding and stuff like that, we can switch over to?
I think that's fine. Commissioners, you've got one key constituency for this project. I mean, that's what's evident. That is what you're dealing with. And just being blunt here, and I've heard 5 times now about how someone over on this side of the room hasn't been doing something for a year. I'm sorry, we've been asking tough questions that we need to know so we can comply with this grant. Exactly. We fell in love with this Moultrie Arena. If we're going to be honest with ourselves and cut to the chase, the constituency fell in love with this used arena, and we have had the horse blinders on for it ever since. About a year ago, I asked for some tough questions regarding alternatives that we could afford, because from my simplistic line of thinking, we've fallen in love with a used Cadillac when maybe all we can afford is a new Yugo. And I wanted to make sure that this board had more than one option. I started that with Mr. Barton's assistance well over half a year ago. And the most frustrated person in this room, I assure you, on this issue and how long it's taken is me.
That might be debatable.
I'm pretty sure of it. But regardless, it doesn't matter. What you've got before you is something you may not be able to afford. And what we are understanding is that you don't want to balance your projects on volunteer labor that is not definable from people that may or may not be insured. When your granting agency won't allow it, you shouldn't allow it yourself. You need an actionable plan, and I'm sorry, what I have seen come through my office has been on the back of a cocktail napkin in terms of its holistic nature. And we've been asking for something more than that, and it hasn't been provided, period. So that's how we got to this point today. Now, what we want to get from the board is, you've got your one constituency. I think you hear pretty clearly what they want. You let us know what you want us to do, and we'll move forward. We're happy to do that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, I don't know this for a fact. I just sense that, and this is not against you guys. You guys are out of this picture, what I'm about to talk about. I think, honestly, let's just wait long enough, and they're going to have to do this. They're going to have to go to Moultrie and get this, or do away with the grant, which they knew we wouldn't do. And that's where we've been backed into the corner. I don't want to be in that corner. I'm saying that if we've got time, we need to go try to, I'm with you, let's go try to bid this out and get some real prices. This is bogus. We need some real hard prices. What's it gonna cost? What's the man gonna charge us for it? What's it gonna cost to move it down here? What's it gonna cost to lay it on the ground, erect it again, make it wind resistant to the 120 mile an hour? I wanna know all that before I'm gonna buy this pig in the poke. I will jump through hoops to try to get them this facility because I know this is real, this turnkey project. I don't know if that's real numbers. I'd like to have some bids on that as well. That's where I'm at.
And can't we do both at the same time?
Yes.
So what is the time expectation of putting us through the process of really going out and getting these bids, whatever it takes to get these answers back? When would it be coming before the board?
Bid product. I guess I don't know what we're going to be going out to bid. Are we going to be going out to bid to move this arena down here, tear it down, build it back up?
Purchase it, move it, erect it, make it wind resistant, and go open the doors to it.
Well, I think the purchase is pretty clear. I mean, I don't know if he's willing to negotiate. I tried to get that number for the owner myself, and I wasn't able to get the number because I wanted to speak to him, but I couldn't get the number. But if it's negotiable, you're right, then we may be able to get a cheaper price. But, I mean, we pretty much know, I think it's $75,000 in the last quote we've gotten, right? We're pretty much solid on that.
We don't know the transportation cost. We don't know some of these items to put it back up in place. Okay, just to see what it would be. Forget about volunteer.
Okay.
What it would be of construction companies that are insured that will be stepping in to do this. Let them
Do you want us to get just estimates from construction companies and later, or do you want us to do a formal solicitation?
I'd do an RFP.
Okay.
And that's
going to be a 30-day turnaround time, so it's going to be...
Commissioner Green?
How do we address and what do we do when we bring those pilings and those posts and set them in concrete and you start to put that metal up there and those holes don't line up?
You got a mess.
You got a leaking roof.
Yes.
You got a leaking building. How do you do that? How do you put up a structure as heavy as this thing is and as big as it is, and those holes don't come any place close to lining up?
Well, I mean, that's what they do when they move them. I mean, that's what you do when you move them. I mean,
that's why you got to get a licensed contractor to do it.
Well, but also, I mean, you number them and you label them, and you know, I mean, I'm just a paint contractor, but I don't take cabinet doors off without numbering them and labeling them where they go, because you can't get a cabinet, the cabinet doors go by.
Still
none of them are exactly the same, and none of them panels are going to be. The screws aren't going to be. You number them, you picture them, But it takes a licensed person. Professional knows how to do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
And there may be some holes that you got to fill. I mean, but that's repairable as well.
So I move that we task staff to go out for our RFP with all those things I just listed. Purchase of the building, a real hard price, moving the building down here, laying it on the ground, erection of the building to whatever standard the general standard is out there, and wiring. I mean, you can't use. I can't believe you can rip out the old wiring and reuse it. They're gonna have to rewire it and set up, ready to go, like we would get with a turnkey. And then I'd also add to that we'd go out for bids for a turnkey project that's in that amount.
That's good.
That's my second.
Okay, so let's see. The motion by Commissioner Stewart and the second by Commissioner Watts. Now, we're getting someplace. Yes.
There are parts of that, I mean, I don't know that you necessarily have to make it an RFP where the person who's giving us the bid has to buy the building and then move the building. Like, I think everything would maybe buying the building. I think we can do that separate. I'm just saying, I'm just clarifying. Sorry.
I think that's important because I'm not really sure what the second RFP would be for. Would it be just for the arena? Would it be just for the arena and the bathrooms?
What we can afford. What we can afford to do with for that grant money. What's the best thing we can get?
And it sounds like it's basically the arena.
Exactly. Right. Uncovered arena.
Right.
Okay. So we can go for bid.
Okay.
And then we've got apples and apples here we can weigh out.
Sounds good. We have a couple more speaker cards on this item. Susan Gentile.
Hi, Susan Gentile, 295 River Road.
I enjoy riding my horse, and I love being in this county. And I think an arena, from what I understand, where it is now, is going to have to be moved. You already bought the property or designated that property. Where it is now is going to be used for something else. As far as I thought, some kind of a hurricane preparedness. I think the agricultural something or other is owning that property. There is no other arena, or even the Leon County arena is not as nice as this new property. And I just want something to be done. We've kind of been sitting on this for a while, and like we've said, but we want to bring people to this county. I love this county, and it would, so many things that have been rained out have had to be moved to different church facilities or whatever. You could just move them over there as a rain date, parade, any get-togethers that companies are having. It would be, the covered arena would be great, but if we start with something less and build on it, we would get a lot more use out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Luther, counsel.
Hi, Commissioners. People that do this kind of work of disassembly and reassembly, they do it very well. Usually by the time they do this, if he's an engineer, he can start working on, looking at it now and be able to tell what he's going to have to do to beef up the system. They tear it down, they move it, they mark it, they label everything, and then they start assembling it and start building in the wind loads, the structural components, everything, replace any damaged stuff as they come back and put it together. It's people that do it, they do it pretty efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all our citizens, and we have a motion and a second on the table, giving staff direction to, as we understand it, do two things. One is to actually get the RFQ, two similar tracks going out. We're looking at the Moultrie situation, and we're looking at a new facility that would not have a roof on it. Commissioner Otts.
Yeah, I'm looking ahead to the ongoing operating costs. I don't know if the Moultrie Arena already includes lighting. There may not be much that could be done to make it more energy efficient. But if there's something that needs to be replaced, is there any way to include in the RFP that it be whatever, LED or solar or something? Because it was $4,000 a year, I guess, for light. Anyway, if there's some way with the Moultrie run, and if there's going to be lighting included in the other, let's go for whatever will cost us the least on an annual basis, and same with the water if possible.
Okay, any further board discussion? Okay, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. We are out of general business and into commissioner agenda items. There's one commissioner agenda item. This is mine, and the statement of issue is that this agenda item requests the Board of County Commissioners to vote to approve the use of staff resources in assisting obtaining right-of-way and realigning Cooperwood Road. Cooperwood Road is located in the north of Bucks and Cutoff to the east of Wakulla Springs, thereabouts on the Wakulla Springs Highway, east of Wakulla Springs Highway. This is a road that I heard about before I was a commissioner, sitting in the audience, listening to people come up and tell horror stories about how they could not get access, especially when it rained and other things. It's also potentially a connector road to I believe it's Bob Miller. And I've been out there, looked at this. There are some issues out there, but there is a There are some property owners that are willing to look at this from a perspective of doing what it takes to get this road right of way, so that we can eventually move down and get this thing as a more functional road. Right now, when our grader is grading this road, it's a chore. You can't pass this grader unless he happens to be near some spot that he can pull into. So that's how tight the thing is as far as even grading. It doesn't get graded easily. So what this is asking is just if the board thinks it's something that staff should spend resources on to look to see if there is a cost-efficient way of accomplishing this and make this into a more usable road and a connector road, then
I move to allow staff to use its resources to obtain right-of-way and realign Cooperwood Road.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Brock. Commissioner Ross, you had a comment?
I didn't get a chance to talk to Cleve, so. I just got this item before the meeting. So Cleve, do you agree that this is a priority and something that we should do?
Yes.
Okay.
We have lots of issues with the width of the road going to the Cooperwood area now, and it would definitely be an improvement.
I want to give Brent and Cleve some credit. They've been working this for a long time with some folks up there who, and Brent and I have talked to, and a gentleman up there who's willing to give a big portion of this to make this happen. So they have already done a lot of legwork. Two of those, so we need to give them credit for that before we even start on them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And is the plan when we do this to close the existing Cooper Road, but just have it completely realigned to this new road? And that dip in it is, you walked away clear, that was what I was questioning.
Let me address that before Cleve may address it. There is no new road there right now.
Right.
I mean, there is no even thought there are alternatives that staff has to look at as to how to do this. Now, if it goes to what you're looking at south, and we're able to dip around that wetland, and we have the cooperation of several of the neighbors, then that right of way to the north there would go away. And so that would disappear. Is it clear?
What we'll eventually bring back to the board is we'll figure out the alignment and the new route and poll the property owners to make sure they're all for that. Then we'll come back to the board before we proceed with the project. And at that point in time, you'll see exactly what we close off in the new transition point between the new right-of-way, if it works out in Cooperwood, and possibly even going on over to intersection of Staten and Richardson, and tied back to paved roads over there. So we'll bring this all back to you at some point in time.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. You have a citizen to speak, Ms. Moselle Madison. Okay, thank you. And so there are no further citizens to speak on this issue. And I might add that Ms. Moselle Madison is one of the principals and property owner in that area, and has been out with looking at the different alternatives, and she is very receptive to looking at alternatives at this point in time. Am I correct? Thank you. Okay. Hearing no further board questions or discussions, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. At this time, we are going to the county attorney. Nothing. County administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. A couple of items here. First one I want to address is a request to move the solid waste workshop. We had a workshop to discuss the proposed solid waste licensing ordinance this Thursday at 5. Cleve, how much longer? Where'd Cleve go? You want to do it a month from now, or? 2 months from now. 2 months from now.
Well, we can't do December because of the retreat.
Right, so in January, appreciate a motion to reschedule that until January, and then move up, as part of the same motion, move up your workshop on housing to just start at 5. I mean, there's no need to...
We've already posted that, though, for 6.
Yeah, can we not?
Housing's been noticed for 6.
6 would be better for me.
All right, well, then don't worry about the housing thing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion by Commissioner Brock and second by Commissioner Stewart to move this solid waste workshop into
January.
Okay. Call further board discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. And just one more issue for the evening, which was reading notice of resignation into the record and provide the board with the opportunity for discussion on administrative transition. I appreciate your allowing me to read this into the record this evening. This is on county letterhead dated today's date, signed by myself. It was distributed before the meeting, and reads, Honorable Chairman and Board of County Commissioners, after 4 rewarding years of honorable, ethical, professional, and proud service to you and the great citizens of Wakulla County, it is my privilege to submit this notice of resignation from the position of County Administrator. I have been offered and have accepted a Chief Executive job offer outside of Wakulla County that will mark the next opportunity of my career. In accordance with my employment contract, which I attached the letter, and the required notice provisions therein, please be advised that my last day of work shall be Monday, January the 3rd, 2011. Accordingly, I expect all benefits to continue in full until that date, that a processing of payout for all unused and accrued leave and a full honoring of the associated vesting into my additional deferred compensation plan shall also occur on the close of business of that date. Please know that it is my intent to work with the board on a smooth transition to an interim or a new administration. I am also open to considering an earlier vacating of the office of County Administrator under mutually agreed upon terms and conditions so that I may begin my next professional assignment as soon as possible. During these 4 years of my tenure, there are many achievements that I have shared with this county, and I wish to highlight a few of them here. During this time and under the board's policy direction, we achieved the following key goals and objectives. We developed and strategically led the process toward passage of a home rule charter form of government. We are now the 20th chartered county in the state of Florida and the smallest and most progressive in my mind. Prepared 4 annual budgets inclusive of the largest property tax reductions in county history, and winner of the International GFOA Distinguished Budget Award, a first in county history. Established annual strategic planning processes for implementing board priorities, holistically reorganized staff, and established new administrative policies to increase the professionalism, efficiency, and quality of county services to the public. We've maximized county program productivity by implementing performance-based budget development plan inclusive of all county programs, overhauled and expanded key county enterprise utility programs, with the head nod to Cleve over there, solid waste, sewer, and water, to improve service delivery at fair cost to property owners and to our citizens. We've expanded the regional presence of Wakulla County through intergovernmental advocacy. We've made comprehensive improvements to our growth management planning processes. We've increased transparency, and we've implemented a reconstituted, unified, and top-performing Department of Public Safety. I wish to reiterate what an honor and privilege it has been to serve each commissioner during my tenure here. I wish to thank each county attorney that I've been fortunate to serve with in our shared staff quest for excellence. I also thank each constitutional officer and other important community partners for providing their leadership towards shaping county governance. Most importantly, I wish to thank the team of loyal, I see you out there, honest and dedicated employees that endeavor day in and day out for Wakulla County citizens, many times with only modest gratitude given for the important roles that they serve. Per capita, I would put the minds, hearts, and mettle of this team, your team, up against any local government in the state of Florida for their high commitment standards toward excellence in public service. The best mark of an administrator, in my view, is measured in the good works they perform in public service, their commitment to their community, and an honest appraisal of where they leave an organization in comparison to where they found it. I leave with a full heart, warm appreciation for those I've served with, and with a great team in place to continue to serve our fine community well into the future. To conclude achieving the high goals that we set together and that you led with, Board, I thank you for your confidence and wish you all my best. Sincerely, Ben Pingree. And closing, that was the notice. It's an exciting time for my family and I know it's also an exciting time for the Board and an exciting time for this very competent group of people we have in place that serve you and serve our citizens. It is my intention for a smooth transition. Don't know if you want to get into that tonight. We can agenda it later if you wish, but I'm certainly open and engaged into an earlier vacation under vacating under reasonable terms. And I wanted to put this on your radar, and thank you again for your confidence. It's been a real honor.
Thank you, Mr. Pingree. I have a question for the county attorney. And I just want to make sure that there's no problem with we talked about the January 3rd date, and that's okay. We're good as long as it's longer, not shorter. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the contract requires a minimum of 60 days. Obviously, both parties can agree to change those terms.
Okay. And then it would be a working to transition over the next several weeks, especially with the new board coming on. Okay. Are there any comments from the board?
I'd like to say that I appreciate what you've done for the county, Ben, and it's always easy to throw stones where we are now, but it's hard for people to look back and see where we were before. I know this is old rhetoric for me, but I know how far we've come, and I think you took us out of the dark ages and into the 21st century, as painful as it was, and we're going to turn a new chapter in our county and keep moving ahead. I used to think that the ships I was on couldn't run after I left, and they're still banging around out there, and this county will keep going without you. It may not be as efficient in some areas, and maybe we'll do better in some others. I don't know, but I appreciate what you've done and given to the county. With that said, I would like to see us, and I think you mentioned it, Mr. Kessler, is set this aside until we have a new board. Maybe even consider, I had a thought today to consider maybe adding it on as an agenda item the night that we swear in all the new commissioners, whoever, if that's you or whoever. We know we're going to have one new commissioner, and we'll, whatever board we end up with, I think that needs to be, we swear in, and then we move to that as a first agenda item that night to talk about an interim administrator to bring on board.
I think that's reasonable. Is there any comment from the board relating to that?
I guess I would like some guidance from our attorney and administrators about what the process of identifying, or how do you either open the invitation or nomination or whatever the process would be to have people to consider and then to select. I would like some guidance on what would be the best way to do that, and then also proposals for how to do a transition.
So I think what I'm hearing is a request for an informational packet on how the board, future board, will look upon this and have the current board members that will continue, at least 3, will be able to at least get more up to speed.
I think that would be helpful.
Staff and attorney can provide some.
I have one question then. Are you for an interim and for a permanent? The answer would be different. So if you're...
I'd like to know for both, actually.
Okay.
So that should be no problem for staff to provide.
Can I interrupt and say that in the form of a motion that we add that on as an agenda item for the night of the swearing in, which would be the 17th? 16th? Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brock to set that, addressing the transition for the first meeting of the new board on the 16th of December. 6th of December? 16th of December. Okay.
16th of November.
November 16th. That will, okay. So when is the next?
15th.
Oh,
About
okay.
2 miles on the road.
Okay. That's fine. And I'd like to, this was the situation that was resolved in a fashion that that everyone could come together and resolve on, and I appreciate that. So with that, we wish you well. We're into this. Oh, we need to vote. Thank you, and we need to give special thanks to Evelyn, who always keeps us on our toes. Thank you. So we'll vote on that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. The next is discussion items by commissioners. Commissioner Otts?
No, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Green? Commissioner Brock?
I want to, again, really, we talked about at the beginning of the meeting that if you work in Tallahassee and participate with United Way, to make sure you designate your funds back to our hometown, Wakulla County. And I also want to reiterate that tomorrow is Election Day. And elections in Wakulla County and the state of Florida are notoriously close. And if you want to make sure the candidate you like wins, make sure you vote.
Commissioner Stewart. I have a couple very briefly. One is, and maybe we can even get a head nod if the board so desires. Panacea has been moving ahead with the discussion of golf cart community. They have a proposal on the table that has 2 different golf cart communities set with 98 splitting them. There's also I hear talk of the possibility of including Bottoms Road as the third leg of that. How does the board feel about a workshop on that?
Let me just say this, and maybe this will help move it along, is the CTSD has taken this up, and I suggest that you turn it over to them and let them resolve it. Because they've come up with some good ideas about establishing policy. It takes it, we need to have a great concern about, as funny as it may sound, when you say you can drive a golf cart, that constitutes anything with 4 wheels, and I can imagine somebody taking and putting a big V8 engine in a golf cart, and they're going to be legal to drive around all over the place, and that's not what we want to create. We want to create something that's safe, so there needs to be some rules and regulations and inspections, and I think the Sheriff's Department will have to be part of that process, which they have said they would do, as far as annual inspections of the golf carts.
And I think that's good, and they can continue to work on that, is what you're suggesting, bring something back to the board in a
yes, sir.
A more completed state than we have right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm good with that, and I can hold off. And do we want to make that in the form of a motion to ship it on there, or just leave it the way it is and let it flow?
Either way is fine. If you tell us to go to work, I'm on that committee, and we'll go to work on it, and we'll work with the Panacea Waterfronts Committee. And I know they've done a bunch of work already. We may be able just to take what they've done and adopt it.
Okay. So we get a head nod to have the Yes.
CTSD.
To move ahead with developing this plan with waterfronts and bring a more final product back to the board. Okay, so we have everyone nodding in agreement there. So thank you, Commissioner Stewart. The second thing that I'm concerned about is Wakulla Gardens, and we're all concerned about. But going out there recently, I came upon a house that was built within the last few years. Actually, several of them. This one was occupied, and I talked with the resident there, and she told me about her water, which is unwell, goes through a filtration system and all the things, and she gave me a bottle of water, which I don't have with me right now, but I was going to just demonstrate how ugly this water is. Okay, and we have real problems that are existing in Wakulla County right now. It may be safe to drink, but this stuff settles out. It looks nasty. And I think this board, the future board, has to continue to pay attention to the development, infrastructure, and how much development without that infrastructure one of the future boards are willing to allow to take place there.
You bring up a good point, and maybe it's a legal question. If there's water service areas, and somebody has that as a water service area, can we as a county force them to supply the water, and if they don't, we take the water service area away?
It's set up as a conditional use permit right now, which is a little bit of a different situation, but you could go through the procedural, do public notice, do notice to the permit holder, and contract or take away part of the territory if there's a refusal to serve.
And that's what I'd like to see this board do.
I would support that.
I would support that also. Okay. I think we got 5 heads nodding in agreement to go in that direction. This is very frustrating. Across the street there was a house that I don't know if it had ever been occupied in. It may have been, but also with a very big filtration system. It was being shown to people that were shopping for a house. But on the next block is the water system, city water, and in order for them to come, and here's houses there, they say, well, you have to pay us to run a line from that and get it to, so it was tens of thousands of dollars to do this, and that's absurd. And we as a county have to be addressing these issues, and I think I totally agree with your position, Commissioner Stewart.
Do we need to make a motion to direct that to start happening, or how would you like us to handle that?
No, I think we have sufficient direction right now. I think the logical first step would be for staff to internally sit down with the permit holder there and see whether they have willingness. Then you'd have to begin, if there's not willingness, you begin the process of doing your modifications, but hand in hand you'd want to find somebody who may want to serve the area in lieu of your current provider as well.
And I'll provide you with the address of the specific case that I was referring to here. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. We're at the moment of the meeting for a motion for adjournment.
So, second.
And motion by Commissioner Brock, second by Commissioner Stewart. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, well, as soon as